Chapter 395. Nietang, who was wearing a luxurious brocade robe, stood with his hands behind his back. He glanced at Bo in front of him and spoke in a low voice filled with the aura of a ruler. "You are the ruler of the glorious Sun Country, Bo. That is this humble one," he quickly replied. In front of him, he did not dare call himself this ruler. He could only lower himself and call himself that. After all, His Highness the Crown Prince of Sixth-Tier Country was much more honorable than him. In front of him, even if he was the ruler of a country, he was nothing. Moreover, he secretly glanced at the 8 people behind him, and his heart trembled. Those 8 people were all cultivators, and their strength was unfathomable. He had only glanced at them, but he felt a wave of pressure, causing cold sweat to appear on his forehead. Sure enough, there was a huge difference between cultivators and Xian martial artists. Thinking of this, he quickly reined in his thoughts and said, "Your Highness the Crown Prince has come from afar. Please enter the palace to rest first. In the evening, Bo will prepare a banquet to welcome your Highness the Crown Prince." Nietang slightly nodded and followed Bo into the palace's gates. As for the luxurious flying boat behind him, it was not put away. Instead, it was openly placed in front of the palace's gates, allowing people to look at it. Entering the palace's inner courtyard, Bo personally brought him to a palace that had been prepared. He had him live in it and said, "I knew that your Highness the Crown Prince would be coming in a few days, so I ordered people to prepare the palace ahead of time. This will allow your Highness the Crown Prince to live comfortably." Nietang casually glanced at the palace, but did not say anything. Instead, he looked at Bo and asked, "This Highness sent people to the Feng Manor's eldest young miss to ask for her hand in marriage. How did it go?" Hearing this, Bo quickly said, "When your Highness sent people over, I already told the Feng Manor's people." At that time, Feng Xiao and eldest young miss did not agree. But recently, many things have happened in the Feng family. Feng Xiao was assassinated and fell into a coma. Old Master Feng has also disappeared. Now, the Feng Manor only has eldest young miss supporting it. It is already on the verge of collapse. For eldest young Miss Feng to be able to obtain your Highness the Crown Prince's favor at this time, she should be very grateful. I will prepare a banquet tonight and have people invite her into the palace to accompany your Highness the Crown Prince. Oh, there was actually such a thing? Thinking of how that beautiful girl was facing this sort of situation and was supporting an entire family with her weak shoulders, he could not help but feel his heart tremble. Thus, he looked at Bo and asked in a deep voice, "Have you found out who did it?" Bo wiped away his cold sweat and said, "No, we still don't know who did it, but my guess is that it should be someone from another country. Feng Xiao is a general in Yaori and already has quite a few enemies. The Feng Manor's eldest young miss, Feng Qingge, will be this Highness woman. You must investigate her family situation thoroughly." Yes, of course. He quickly agreed, his heart feeling weak. "Go prepare for the banquet. There is no need for too many other people. Just call her over for this Highness." He waved his hand, indicating for him to leave. "Yes, then I'll take my leave." He bowed, then turned and left. After Bo left, a middle-aged man wearing black clothes stepped forward and asked, "Master, do you want this subordinate to investigate the Feng Manor?" That time, because he had been careless, he and his master had fallen for that girl's trick without even making a move. He had always been brooding over this. Chapter 396. There's no need. I believe she already knows about my arrival. Whether I see her or not, whether I inquire about her or not, she will be my woman in the end. Why be anxious? His words were filled with confidence, as if he was certain that Fengjiu would become his woman no matter what. Just as he said, the entire Yinhua city knew that His Highness the Crown Prince of Qing Tang Kingdom had come to their glorious Sun Kingdom. Everyone was well aware that he came for the Feng family's eldest young miss, Feng Qingge. This news had already spread some time ago, so there was nothing surprising about it. However, what they did not expect was that His Highness the Crown Prince of Qing Tang Kingdom valued Feng Qingge so much that he did not hesitate to travel thousands of miles just to take her as a secondary consort. It could be seen that he valued her quite a bit. This made the people who originally thought that the Feng Manor would collapse because of Feng Zhao's coma and the old man's disappearance once again watch with the attitude of a bystander. Actually, a secondary consort was just a concubine. The difference was that the other party was the crown prince of Qing Tang Kingdom. The Feng family did not want Feng Qingge to be a secondary consort, but now she was the only one left in the Feng family. Facing the crown prince of Qing Tang Kingdom, who came personally, what choice would she make? No matter what her choice was, this would be a big show, and there were just people waiting to watch the show. What did you say? The crown prince of Qing Tang Kingdom is here? In the manor, Murong Yixian stood up with a frown, his sharp eyes staring at the guard who reported the news. Yes, the entire Yingyue city has spread the news. The crown prince of Qing Tang Kingdom came in a flying ship. The flying ship stopped at the palace gates and is still there. He was personally welcomed into the palace by the emperor. It is said that he will be receiving him tonight. The emperor is even preparing to ask eldest young Miss Feng to accompany him. Hearing this, Murong Yixian's hands under his sleeves tightly clenched into fists. His heart was filled with anger and anxiety that could not be concealed. Asked Qingge to accompany him? To accompany the crown prince of Qing Tang Kingdom? His lord father was really getting worse and worse. What did he take Qingge for? Prepare a sedan. This lord wants to enter the palace. He flicked his sleeves and strode out. On the other side, Guanxilin Black Market was also stunned when he heard the news. He looked at Manager Yin and asked, "What did you say? The crown prince of Qing Tang Kingdom is here?" Manager Yin nodded and said, "Yes, the flying ship is right in front of the palace gates. It said that he is here to receive eldest young Miss Feng." As he spoke, his voice paused, and he asked curiously, "Eldest young Miss Feng shouldn't have been a Qingting Kingdom before, right? Why would the crown prince of the Qingting Kingdom take a fancy to her? Is she to be a secondary concubine? Secondary consort?" Guanxilin laughed, but there was a hint of mockery in his laughter, not to mention the concubine. "Even if my sister wants to be the concubine, she won't like him. A mere crown prince of the Qingting Kingdom. He's not even worthy of my sister. Let my younger sister be his concubine?" Hearing this, Manager Yin was stunned. He did not know where his confidence came from. In his opinion, eldest Miss Feng only had a country-toppling appearance. Her cultivation was not worth mentioning at all. But why did it sound as if eldest Miss Feng was noble and unattainable? Even the crown prince of a sixth-ranked country was not worthy of her. Why was this so? Chapter 397. The Ghost Doctor's Woman. Hearing this, Guanxilin was startled and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why would you think that? Is that not the case? If the Feng family has nothing to do with the Ghost Doctor, why would the Ghost Doctor give special orders to take care of the Feng family? She even gave them medicine. The Feng family's eldest young miss is beautiful and has an outstanding temperament. It's normal for her to catch the Ghost Doctor's eye. After all, which man doesn't like beauty? Speaking to this point, Manager Yin laughed. From a man's point of view, when a woman is noticed, it must be because of her beauty. First, her appearance attracts attention, then other things. Of course, his point of view didn't represent all men. It could only be said that most men were like this. Hearing this, Guanxilin shook his head and laughed. "All right, don't make wild guesses. I need to go see my sister first. The crown prince of the Qing Tang Kingdom is here. I need to see if she has any plans to deal with him." That is to say, the Feng family's eldest young miss won't become the secondary princess of the Qing Tang Kingdom's crown prince? He couldn't help but ask Guanxilin's back. "Puffed. He's a toad that wants to eat swan meat." Guanxilin sneered. Without turning his head, he walked out of the black market and headed towards the Feng Manor. Inside the Feng Manor, eldest young miss, the crown prince of the Qing Tang Kingdom, is here. It's clear that taking you as a secondary princess wasn't something he said casually. Now that he has arrived at the imperial palace, he should be here in 2 days. Does the eldest young miss have any plans to deal with him? Aside from Luo Yu and his master who were in closed-door cultivation, The other 7 people all found Fengjiu after hearing the news outside. They wanted to know how she would deal with this matter. According to what they knew, the crown prince of the Qing Tang kingdom had brought 8 cultivators with him. If they wanted to take her by force, then Fengjiu was in the middle of the courtyard grinding medicine. Seeing them come, she only raised her eyes to look at them. After hearing their words, she didn't even raise her head and casually said, "That Morong Bo isn't my father. It's not up to him to decide who I marry. Besides, if I don't marry, do you think they would dare to take me by force?" But just as one of them was about to speak, Lung Shuang, dressed in black, walked in. "Master, how is it?" Fengjiu asked as he put away the powdered medicine on the table. Qing Tang Kingdom's crown prince Niet Tang, the most favored son of the Qing Tang Kingdom's king. He is 24 years old, and his cultivation is at the late stage of building stage. He is a genius cultivator who has been determined by the 6-Star Academy's principal to be able to enter the gold core stage within 50 years. He is stubborn and confident, and his methods are swift and ruthless. It is said that when he was 12 years old, he chased after a rank 9 spirit beast by himself for more than a month, and finally killed it and presented it to his father. Lung Shuang paused and said, "Steward, Yin has a message for you." Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "What words?" "Don't fight with Nietong over the Feng Manor's eldest young miss. He won't give up until he has her." Fengjiu froze for a moment, then laughed out loud. This steward, Yin, is really interesting. How could he think like that? The 7 middle-aged men to the side twitched their mouths. They really wanted to say, that last sentence was the main point. Okay? Eldest young miss. The steward's voice came from outside the courtyard. Fengjiu's eyes were full of smiles. Hearing the steward's voice, she called out, "Come in." Chapter 398. Hearing this, the 7 middle-aged men looked at Fengjiu. The palace had invited her. Would she go? Fengjiu's lips curled up and looked at the housekeeper. Is he still outside? No, he's already gone back after passing on the message. The housekeeper respectfully said, all right, you can go to your work." She nodded and indicated for him to leave. "Yes." The butler responded and left the room. "Does eldest young miss want to go to the banquet?" One of them asked with a serious expression. She was afraid that this banquet was a trap set up for her. "I'm busy. I don't have the time to go to the banquet." She brushed her clothes and stood up. Seeing the serious expressions of the 7 people, she couldn't help but smile. "You don't need to worry. Nothing big will happen." After saying this, she went to the main courtyard. She planned to go see her father to prevent him from worrying after hearing the news. In the imperial palace, Murong Yixian arrived at his lord father's palace with an ugly expression. Upon entering, he asked, "Lord Father, do you plan on using Qinggu to form a marriage alliance?" The people of Feng Manor have already expressed their stance on this marriage. They won't marry Qinggu to Qing Tang Crown Prince as a secondary princess. Could it be that you didn't tell him the truth? Murong Bo heard his questioning tone and became furious. He slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "Impudent! Is there anyone who speaks to their lord father like this? You're really becoming more and more unruly." However, Murong Yixian was not afraid of his anger. His gaze darkened, and his usually gentle and refined face was now filled with anger. "Lord Father should know that I like her, but Lord Father still made this kind of decision. I really want to ask, does Lord Father see me as a son?" Seeing that his son was not afraid of his imposing manner, Murong Bo sighed heavily. Pursing his lips, he calmly said, "Your engagement with her has already been canceled. She no longer has any relationship with you. Moreover, if she liked you, she wouldn't have canceled the engagement with you. Now, why do you still need to care about Feng Manor's matters? You need to know that if she becomes crowned Prince Qing Tang's secondary princess, not only will it stabilize the Feng Manor that is on the verge of collapse, it will also help us gain the support of the country of Qing Tang. This is a good thing that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. What reason do you have to stop it?" He paused and glanced at him. "What's more, can you stop the crown prince of Qingting from taking a liking to her? You should know that in this world, the strong are respected. Strength determines everything. Although you are a genius of the glorious Sun Nation, that is only limited to the glorious Sun Nation. In front of the crown prince of a sixth-grade nation, you can't protect her. Hearing such a straightforward and merciless truth, his face turned pale. His hands under his sleeves tightly clenched into fists. Although he was angry, he had to admit that he could not protect her. If he could protect her, her father wouldn't have been assassinated and knocked unconscious. If he had been able to protect her, she would not have been forcefully betrothed to the crown prince of Qing Tong as a concubine. If he could protect her, she would not have been ordered by his father to dress up and accompany the crown prince of Qing Tong. Strength. All of this was because his strength was not enough. If he had great strength, who would dare to treat the person he liked like this? He had never realized the importance of strength like he did today, and he had never wanted to have great strength like he did now. Chapter 399. Hearing this, Murong Yixian looked up at him and said in a deep voice, "No one can compare to her." Then he turned around and strode out. Murong Bo frowned as he watched him stride away. He was worried that he would go to Qingting Crown Prince, so he followed him personally. The affection of the royal family was as thin as paper, but he valued this son of his very much. Among his many sons, he was the most talented. He also hoped that he would be able to achieve great things in the future, so he naturally did not want him to be tied down by the feelings of his children. This young lady of the Feng family, whether she was willing or not, she had to become Qingting Crown Prince's woman. Only in this way, Yixian would stop thinking about her and focus on cultivation. Just as Murong Bo was worried, Murong Yixian really found the palace where Qingting Crown Prince stayed. However, there were powerful cultivators guarding outside the palace, so it wasn't easy to enter. Please pass on the message that Murong Yixian is asking for an audience. He looked at the gray-robed cultivator who was emitting a powerful aura, and his heart sank. He was indeed from a powerful country. With such cultivation, if he was in dazzling sun, it was more than enough to be a clan leader. The gray-robed, middle-aged man glanced at him from above and said coldly, "His Highness is resting. He won't see anyone." Hearing this, Murong Yixian's face sank. When he was about to step forward, he felt his shoulder being pressed down. He turned slightly and saw his father pushing him behind him. He smiled and said to the middle-aged man, "Hee, my son has admired the crown prince for a long time. When he heard that the crown prince came to the palace, he wanted to come and greet him. He almost disturbed his highness's rest." Then he turned around and looked at Murong Yixian, who had a dark face, and said in a deep voice, "Go back. I have something to say to the crown prince. Please pass on the message." Murong Yixian didn't pay attention to him, but looked at the middle-aged man and said in a neither haughty nor humble manner. Hearing this, the gray-robed middle-aged man glanced at Murong Bo, who had an ugly expression. Then his gaze fell on Murong Yixian. After sizing him up, he said impolitely, "You will see the banquet tonight. If you have something to say, say it then. Now leave immediately. Guards, send the third prince out of the palace." Murong Bo shouted in a deep voice. A few guards stepped forward, but they did not dare to touch him. Instead, they respectfully said, "Third prince, please." Seeing this, Murong Yixian's face darkened. He stared inside and said in a low voice, "Since you can't see Qing Tong Crown Prince, then please pass on the message. Feng Manor's eldest young miss, Feng Qinggu, has never agreed to this marriage. Don't waste your time." As soon as he finished speaking, he ignored his father, who had an ugly expression on his face. With a flick of his sleeves, he turned around and left. When Murong Bo heard this, he felt a fire rising from his heart to the top of his head. He couldn't wait to build a good relationship with the Qing Tong kingdom, but he was hindering them from behind. This really deserved to die. Don't listen to his nonsense. Tell His Highness the Crown Prince that there is no problem with this marriage. There is no problem at all. He smiled apologetically and strode away. After the two left, the gray-clothed middle-aged man walked in and reported what had happened in Yetong before leaving. Chapter 400. What? You feel that this highness cannot use my own charm to conquer her? That I need to use the power of the Qing Tang kingdom to make her submit? A dark light flashed through his eyes, and he glanced at the middle-aged man who had spoken. Clearly, he felt uncomfortable hearing those words. Putting aside his position as the crown prince of the Qing Tang kingdom, his own strength was something that few people could compare to. Looking at all the countries, who could be more outstanding than him? This subordinate does not dare. The middle-aged man quickly lowered his head and spoke in fear. Umph. Nieting coldly snorted and did not argue with him, saying, "It's just a woman. The harder it is to conquer, the more this highness is interested. If she were to deliver herself to my doorstep with a curl of my finger, then she would not be worthy of this highness' attention." "Yes, master's right," the middle-aged man quickly agreed. Crown Prince Qing Tung had arrived, and a banquet was being held in the palace. He had specially invited the Feng Manor's eldest young miss to accompany him. Once the news spread, it caused an uproar. No matter what, the Feng family's eldest young miss was still an unmarried woman. Now that she had been invited to the palace, no matter how one looked at it, it was a bit shocking. They were shocked by the emperor's actions. After all, although it was an invitation to the palace, inviting a woman into the palace, and it was the Feng family's eldest young miss that the Qing Tang crown prince wanted, who knew what she would encounter once she entered the palace. If Feng Xiao was not unconscious, he would definitely be furious upon hearing these words. If the old Master Feng was not missing, he would definitely enter the palace to reason with the emperor. However, the current Feng Manor only had the Feng family's eldest young miss left. What could she accomplish? It would be better for her to follow the Qing Tang crown prince like this. Like this, she could use the Qing Tang crown prince's influence to shelter the Feng Manor from the wind and rain. The people in the city discussed it, but there were still some who were curious. Thus, there were quite a few people sitting in a restaurant not far from the Feng Manor, eating and drinking. They wanted to see if the Feng Manor's eldest young miss would really dress up and attend the banquet. However, as the sky gradually darkened, the shops on both sides of the street lit up with red lanterns. But everyone saw that the Feng Manor's gates were still tightly shut. There was not the slightest bit of movement. "HM, why is the Feng family's eldest young miss not coming out? Could it be that she has already entered the palace? How is that possible? To enter the palace, she must pass through this place. Moreover, the gates have not been opened. How could she have entered the palace? Don't tell me she's not going to attend the banquet. It can't be." If the monarch sends someone to pass the message, would she dare to not go? Why wouldn't I dare? She is the daughter of great General Feng Xiao. She has a bit of courage in her bones. Maybe she really didn't plan to attend the banquet. As for the palace, as the sky darkened and the banquet began, the atmosphere was freezing. There was no other reason other than the fact that the person the crown prince wanted to see the most hadn't arrived yet. This made the people who were accompanying the crown prince fidgety in this oppressive atmosphere. "What's going on? Didn't I ask you to send someone to rush him? It's already so late. Why hasn't Feng Qingge arrived yet?" Murong Bo's face darkened as he looked at the inner attendant beside him, his heart raging with anger. The eunuch fell to his knees and quickly said, "Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Perhaps eldest young Miss Feng was dressing up, and that's why she was late. The people sent to pick her up should be back soon." Chapter 401. Murong Bo looked at the people who had hurried over. Because he could not see Feng Qingji's figure behind them, his gaze sank. Without waiting for them to get closer, he asked, "Feng Manor's eldest young miss, did you not bring her here?" The guards kneeled on one knee and fearfully said, "My lord, please forgive us." This subordinate went to the Feng Manor to bring the Feng family's eldest young miss, but the leader of the guards did not dare raise his head. His voice was hesitant, and he did not dare finish his sentence. Murong Bo let out a sigh and said in a deep voice, "Speak." This subordinate went to bring her, but we could not even enter the Feng Manor's gates. A few Feng guards came out to pass on message, saying that their master did not have time to attend the banquet and would not be coming. Towards the end, The guard's voice became quieter and quieter. He lowered his head and felt that after he finished speaking, the surroundings had become silent. That oppressive atmosphere and that extremely cold atmosphere caused people's hearts to tremble. Murongbo instinctively looked towards the crown prince of Qingtung country, Nietong. He saw him sitting and playing with a wine cup in his hand. His eyes were half closed, and the corners of his mouth held a faint smile. He looked as if he did not care, but the entire banquet was unsettled because of him. This Feng Qingge has really gone against the heavens. She actually treated this lord's words as wind that passed her ears. With so many people waiting for her, she actually did not come? Go again. Even if you have to tie her up, you have to tie her up and bring her here. He angrily shouted and had the guards go to the Feng Manor again. Nieting put down the cup in his hand and stood up. His gaze was heavy as he glanced at him. His deep voice carried a dangerous aura and warning. She is the woman who will become this lord's secondary princess. Her name is not something you can casually say. Once his voice fell, he turned and left. Murongbo sat there with an ugly expression. The hands under the table were secretly clenched into fists. He only felt humiliated. He was the monarch of a country. Even if he was the monarch of a small country, he should not be humiliated in front of his subjects. If it was someone else, he would have been furious. However, this person was the crown prince of the Qingting kingdom. He could not afford to offend him. Seeing that he had left, everyone at the banquet secretly heaved a sigh of relief. However, just as they heaved a sigh of relief, they noticed that the monarch's expression wasn't right. Everyone who was originally at ease began to worry again. They only felt that this banquet had really made them tremble in fear and break out in cold sweat. The black-clothed middle-aged man behind Nia Tong cautiously glanced at his master in front of him. Seeing that his master's aura was gloomy and he was faintly suppressing his anger, he couldn't help but feel nervous. Suddenly, he saw him stop walking with his hands behind his back. He secretly wiped away his cold sweat. Fortunately, he wasn't too close, otherwise, he would have directly bumped into him. "You don't have to follow me," Nieting said. He turned around and walked out of the palace. The middle-aged man was startled for a moment, then quickly followed, asking, "Does Master want to go to the Feng Manor to see eldest young Miss Feng? How about this subordinate go and bring her to Master? Wouldn't that be better?" Niet Tung, who was walking in front, did not stop. Without turning his head, he said, "No need. It would be more fun for this lord to go personally." After saying this, he stopped walking and glanced back at him. "You're not allowed to follow." Seeing this, the middle-aged man stopped in place. Seeing him walk out of the palace, he felt a bit worried. He could not help but remind him, "Master, be careful of eldest young Miss Feng. She is an expert at using drugs." Unexpectedly, his kind reminder was met with an angry glare from his master. Chapter 402. Compared to the cold atmosphere in the imperial palace, the Feng Manor's dinner was warm and joyous. Feng Jiu had accompanied her father to listen to the meal, then left with Guan Shilin. When they passed by the pavilion, they saw a cool breeze. She had Lung Shuang bring over a jug of wine. She and Guan Shilin went into the pavilion and sat down. Old Bai and Qiu Qiu followed and rubbed against her feet. "Xiao Jiu, the people that Crown Prince Qingtung brought are very strong. I was thinking, do you want to go hide in the Peach Blossom Cove? If you appear as the ghost doctor, those people will not dare do anything to you. But if you appear as the Feng Manor's eldest young miss, it's hard to say what they will do." Guan Shilin's face did not have the same smile as when they were chatting earlier. Instead, there was a look of worry that was difficult to hide. After all, the opponent was the crown prince of a six-tier country. Also, he had 8 cultivators with him. If they really wanted to steal, even if they used all of the Feng Manor's battle strength, they would not be a match for those people. "You don't need to worry. They won't steal." She began to laugh. Seeing Lung Shuang bring wine over, she said, "For the crown prince of a six-tier country, he would not use the word steal to insult him. If he really did use it to steal a woman, it definitely would not appear on Crown Prince." "You're that certain?" He was a bit puzzled, not understanding where her confidence came from. I'm not certain. It's just that a man's pride does not allow him to do such a thing. Switch positions. If this happened to you, would you steal a woman? She raised her wine cup and took a sip, looking at him playfully. Of course not. He did not even think before replying. Once he said this, he was stunned for a moment, then began to laugh loudly. Ha ha ha. So it was like that. I understand now. Xiao Jiu, how can you even understand a man's mind so well? Feng Jiu slyly smiled and said, Have you forgotten that I look quite decent when I dress up as a man? She had always disguised herself as a man. Wasn't it that even the astute Yama Lord could not see through her? However, she couldn't help but shudder at the thought of the king of hell, who was a homosexual. The guy actually wanted to kiss her that time. Thinking about it, after such a long time, she still got goosebumps. At the same time, on their way to the kingdom of Glorious Sun, the Yama Lord, Hui Lang, and Ying Yi had stopped to rest in the night after a day of traveling. The Yama Lord, who was sitting cross-legged in front of the fire, suddenly sneezed. He opened his deep black eyes and looked in the direction of the kingdom of Glorious Sunday. Hui Lang saw this and asked, Master, did you catch a cold? Do you want some clothes? The corners of Ying Yi's mouth twitched when he heard this. He glanced at him and then looked in the direction his master was looking. He coughed lightly and said, The ghost doctor must be thinking of Master. The Yin Lord glanced at Ying Yi and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. There was an obvious smile on his resolute and handsome face. He glanced at Grey Wolf, who was smiling awkwardly, stood up and straightened his robes as he spoke in an indifferent voice. Let's continue on our way. Don't waste too much time on the road. He had to admit that he missed her too. The closer he got to her, the more he missed her, especially after he found out about what happened to her family recently. He was secretly worried about whether she could handle it. Chapter 4:03. When Huilang heard this, he quickly extinguished the fire and said, Master is right. We shouldn't waste too much time on the road, in case the ghost doctor is snatched away by the Crown Prince of Qingtong. I heard that the Crown Prince of Qingtong not only has an outstanding appearance, his talent is also... Speaking to this point, he paused and swallowed his words. Because Ying glared at him, he could not continue. Although what he said was the truth, perhaps his master did not like to hear it. He secretly sighed and thought, Ying, that fox, only knows how to choose what his master likes to hear. Only an honest person like him would speak the truth. Since ancient times, honest words have always been unpleasant to the ears. Hearing Huilang's words, the words outstanding appearance were extremely harsh to his ears. Thus, he glanced at Huilang. Outstanding appearance? Could it be that you think that this lord's appearance is inferior to others? This subordinate did not mean that. Grey Wolf smiled awkwardly and hurriedly said in a flattering tone, Master is unparalleled, majestic and domineering, just like a god. In this world, this subordinate has never seen anyone who can compare to Master. Master is like the dazzling sun. No matter how outstanding that Qingtong Crown Prince is, compared to Master, he is like a speck of dust on the ground. He is absolutely insignificant. Ghost Doctor will never take a fancy to such a person, so Master can rest assured. Is this lord worried? He raised his eyebrows and asked in a cold tone. Hearing this, Huilang wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and looked at Ying Yi for help. He did not know how to speak. He did not know why he had said so many good things, but his master still said this to him? What's more, Master was already worried. Otherwise, why would he put down whatever he was doing and rush over after hearing the news and learning of the intentions of the Crown Prince of the Qingtong Kingdom? But could he say this? Would he be slapped to death if he said it? Ying Yi glanced at Huilang and stepped forward, suggesting, Master, we are still some distance away from the Glorious Sun Kingdom. Why don't we set off now? We can reach the Feng Manor earlier and see what the Ghost Doctor plans to do. Thinking of the woman who was left alone, Yama Lord's eyes flashed and felt a bit of heartache. He did not argue with Huilang and summoned his flying magic tool, heading towards the Glorious Sun Kingdom with the two of them. In the Feng Manor, there was a bit of chaos. Assassins. After a fierce shout, the sounds of people catching the assassins in the manor could be heard, and the faint sounds of fighting could be heard. However, the sounds of fighting soon quieted down, and only some grunts and the sounds of one-sided punches landing on bodies could be heard. I'm just waiting to be beaten up. It's a waste not to beat them up. Let's talk after beating them up. She toyed with the wine cup in her hand. Her peerlessly beautiful face was slightly flushed from drinking wine, giving her a languid and seductive appearance. The mischievous smile hanging from the corners of her lips added to her demonic charm, giving her an irresistible charm. But Chapter 404. It's fine. They know their limits and won't kill anyone. She smiled without much concern. After drinking 2 cups of wine, she went to the front yard with Guan Shilin. When they came to front, a figure with a sack over his head was being escorted over by them. When they saw Feng Jiu, Feng Wei and the others immediately bowed. Master, we caught an assassin who climbed over the wall. Oh, there's an assassin in the Feng manor? The corners of her lips curled up, indicating for them to take down the sack. Qi Kong took down the sack, revealing the man who had been beaten black and blue. When the people who had been holding the man stopped, his body went limp and he fell to the ground. He could only stare at Feng Jiu with his swollen eyes, but he was unable to say anything. Because the front yard was bright, even though the man's face was swollen, his original appearance and his luxurious robes could still be seen. When Feng Jiu's gaze fell on the man on the ground, she could not help but be surprised. It's you? Once her voice fell, she could not help but laugh. Hee hee, I really never thought that it would be you. You've actually been drugged by me twice. That doesn't feel good, does it? The smile on her face could not help but widen. She never thought that it would be this person. A person who had fallen at her hands once would fall again. It was hard for her not to laugh. That time, she felt that this person was not normal. Sure enough, it was actually the crown prince of Qing Tong country, Nietong. It was no wonder he had that kind of temperament. However, this person was too arrogant. He dared to come to the Feng manor alone. He deserved to be beaten black and blue. Nietong lay on the ground. Because he did not have any strength, he did not move. He just lay there like that. His dark eyes stared straight at the beautiful woman who was smiling like a flower. He suddenly felt that this beating was not that hard to accept. At least, seeing her smile so happily, he had never seen this kind of smile before. At this moment, he only felt that this smile was very beautiful. The anger that had filled his stomach disappeared without a trace after seeing her smile. The more he interacted with her, the more he felt that this woman was exactly what he wanted. I am a crown prince of Qing Tong, Nietong. His gaze was only on her as he said these words unhurriedly. He saw the shock on her face and the incredulity in her eyes. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. He was about to speak, but when he heard what she said next, the corner of his mouth twitched, and the words he wanted to say were stuck in his throat. You got guts. How dare he impersonate Nietong, the crown prince of the Qingting kingdom? Others may not know you, but I do. Aren't you the lecher who followed me all the way in the kingdom of glorious sun? I didn't expect them to climb over the wall and enter my house. The expression on her face changed from surprise to disbelief and then to anger. She pointed angrily at him and suddenly laughed. That smile was somewhat strange, and it made people shudder even though it was not cold. Do you know what's the best way to deal with lechers? She squatted down, a pair of beautiful eyes curved into a smile. Her gaze moved down his face, and when her line of sight fell between his legs, she revealed an evil smile. That's to destroy the source. Chapter 405. Feng Jiu gently laughed. Looking at the badly battered crown prince of Qing Tong, Nietong, she happily said, However, I haven't been fighting much recently, so you can still avoid a disaster. She stood up and brushed her clothes. She said to Qi Kong and the others, Take this impersonating crown prince of Qing Tong back to the imperial palace and let the country's ruler deal with him. Yes, they responded and pulled him up. They put the sack over his head again and took him back to the imperial palace. After they left, Guan Shilin asked, Xiaojiu, he is the crown prince of Qing Tong. Nietong, you've already met him? Could it be that the crown prince of Qing Ting knew of her? It turned out that he had already met her outside. It was no wonder that he would come looking for her. Last time, I met him on the way back. We met once. She helplessly smiled. At that time, I only knew that this person's identity was not simple. I never thought that it would be the crown prince of Qing Tong. If it wasn't for the fact that he did not have any killing intent towards me, I reckon that I would have quietly taken care of him on the way back. A strange expression appeared on her face. She never thought that the crown prince of Qing Tong would be the person she had met on the way back. Only was there something wrong with his head? At that time, he had been knocked out by her, yet he still dared to ask about her, and I wanted to take her as a secondary princess. Was he not afraid that she would kill him one day? After beating him up, I'm afraid that he will take action against the Feng Manor after the medicine wears off. Guan Shilin frowned, feeling a bit worried. He originally thought that it would be a subordinate of the crown prince of Qing Tong, but he never thought that it would be him. This time, he had beaten the crown prince of Qing Tong until his face was swollen. How could nothing happen? Feng Jiu gently laughed. Seeing his serious expression, she patted his shoulder and said, "Brother, there's no point in worrying. What will come. Let's talk about it after the fight. We won't lose out. All right, you should go back as well. Nothing will happen here." She waved her hand, indicating that he should return to the manor. Call me if there's anything." He nodded his head and walked out. In his heart, he was thinking that he shouldn't go to the black market tomorrow. Instead, he came over to take a look. As for the banquet in the palace, most of the guests had already left due to Nietong's departure. Even the monarch was preparing to return to the palace. However, at this moment, a guard hurriedly ran over. "My lord, the people of the Feng Manor have sent over a man. They say that he barged into the Feng Manor at night and pretended to be the crown prince of the Qing Tong country. Thus, they have sent him over to be dealt with by my lord." The monarch, who was already in a bad mood, shouted without hesitation, "Drag him away and cripple him." As soon as he finished speaking, he flung his sleeves and was about to head towards the palace. However, after taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped and turned around. "You just said that person broke into the Feng Manor at night, impersonating the crown prince of Qingtong?" Yes. The guard who was about to leave was frightened by the sudden turn of his head, and his voice trembled slightly. "Where are they? Lead the way," he shouted and indicated for the guard to lead the way. The guard could only comply and bring him outside. However, when they arrived outside, they saw that the person who was originally covered in sackcloth and pressed on the ground had already stood up. He was brushing the mud off his body, and beside him were a few unconscious guards. "Impudent you!" The guard shouted and pulled out his sword. He was about to attack when he was stopped by the monarch behind him. Chapter 406. Saying this, when he saw the swollen face, his entire body froze. His eyes widened in shock, and his mouth dropped open. His face was filled with disbelief. Who dares to beat His Highness the Crown Prince to such a state? What exactly was going on? How could he have been beaten to such a state? In this large country of glorious sun, who dared to beat him to such a state? Strangely, he thought of the Feng Manor's people. His skin tightened, and he asked in a trembling voice, "Your Highness, was it the Feng Manor's people who beat him?" Nietong glanced at him, then turned around and left without saying anything, leaving the shocked and furious monarch standing where he was. Only when Nietong's figure could no longer be seen did the ruler suddenly come back to his senses. He shouted to the guard at his side, "What exactly happened? Explain it clearly to this ruler." The guard knelt on the ground and said in a trembling voice, "Yes, it was Qing Tong's crown prince who barged into the Feng Manor at night and was caught as an assassin by the Feng Manor's people. This Feng Manor has truly turned the heavens upside down." He angrily shouted, "Guards, go to the Feng Manor and capture the person who beat Qing Tong's crown prince." The ruler was furious and ordered the imperial guards to go to the Feng Manor to capture the person. First, it was to let Qing Tong's crown prince see his attitude and give him an explanation. Second, it was to let the Feng Manor's people see clearly that the Feng Manor was no longer the same as before. If they dared to continue being so lawless, he would definitely uproot the Feng Manor. Because of this order, many groups of imperial guards quickly left the palace in the night and headed towards the Feng Manor. When the groups of imperial guards rushed towards the Feng Manor, they naturally alarmed the various powers in the city. When the various families heard about this, they were all shocked. What kind of matter needed to be taken care of overnight? Or was it ordered to go to the Feng Manor in the middle of the night? What was going on? Although there were quite a few families in the city that were laughing at the Feng Manor and waiting for the Feng family to fall, there were also quite a few righteous families that could not stand the imperial family's actions. It could be said that everyone in Yinyu City and even all of Yaori knew what kind of people the Feng family was. They were a family that loyally protected the country. No matter if it was the Feng Master or Feng Shao, they were all loyal and righteous people. They led the Feng guards to block many dangers for Yaori. They knew very well in their hearts that if it weren't for their protection, this small ninth-class country would have been swallowed up by other countries long ago. How could they allow Bo to bully the only remaining young miss of the Feng family like this? The meeting hall of the Gung family, one of the big families in Yinyu City, was filled with people even though it was nighttime. Old Master Gung had just come out of seclusion, but after hearing about the recent events, he called everyone in the family over for a meeting. Now, after hearing about the events of the night, he slammed his hand on the table, causing a loud bang. This shocked everyone in the hall, and they all looked at the person in the main seat. They saw that old Master Gung's wrinkled face was filled with anger. Although his voice was old, it was full of energy. It did not match his age at all. This Bo is truly going too far. Right now, Old Man Feng's whereabouts are unknown, and Feng Shao is unconscious. Only the Feng family's girl remains. But this Bo, as the country's ruler, did not protect her and instead oppressed her. This is simply the actions of a vile person. Chapter 407. It was said that the old man and old Master Feng were old friends for many years, but as the younger generation, they had never seen the two interact with each other. Because the old man spent most of his time in closed-door cultivation, they did not dare to bother him with these things. But now, it seemed that he wanted to stand up for the Feng Manor. The middle-aged man, sitting in the second seat, thought for a while, then looked at the old man sitting in the main seat, and said in a deep voice, "Father, according to what I know, Bo has recently been urging some families to put pressure on the Feng Manor. It seems that he wants to take over the Feng Manor's Feng guards for his own use. However, Crown Prince Qing Tung just happened to arrive, so this matter has been suppressed. If we want to stand up for the Feng Manor, I fear that just our Gung family alone will not be enough. What do you think?" Old Master Gung looked at his son and asked in a slow voice. Because the person in charge of the Feng Manor has fallen, in addition to Bo suppression, many families are avoiding the Feng Manor as much as possible. However, there are a few families that can't stand it, especially old Master Feng and Feng Shao. They are both righteous people. Many people have received their kindness. If we want them to stand up for the Feng Manor, they will shrink back because they don't have the strength to fight against the imperial family. However, if we, the Gung family, take the lead, I dare say that they will definitely stand up. Hearing this, not only did old Master Gung secretly nod his head, but even the people sitting below looked at him with admiration. Not to mention other places, just some of the smaller families in Yinyu City had received the kindness of old Master Feng and Feng Shao. They did not have the strength to fight against the imperial family, so they would not stand up. They would only watch from the sidelines. However, if there was a strong family taking the lead, they would not shirk their duty and stand up to help. Their Gung family was one of the large families in Yinyu City. Although their strength was far from the Feng families, if they gathered a few small families and factions, they would be able to form quite a force. Old Man Gung nodded and said, "And you go and deal with this matter. That old man Feng and I have been through life and death together. Now that he is missing and Feng Shao is in a coma, only the Feng family's girl is left. Our Gung family is not heartless. At this time, we can't just stand by and watch. Otherwise, even if others don't say anything, we will feel guilty. Yes, Father, don't worry. I know what to do. The Gung family master replied in a deep voice. He ordered some people to contact the other families, and some prepared to go to the Feng Manor. Just what was Bo planning in the middle of the night? When the Feng guards, who were scattered all over Yinhua City, saw the Imperial guards rushing towards the Feng Manor in the middle of the night, everyone secretly followed. They hid in the shadows and waited for the command to take action. In the Feng Manor, Fengjio, who had just finished bathing, was only wearing her inner clothes. She sat by the stone table in the courtyard, allowing Lung Shuang to dry her hair. She was reading a book in her hand. Once her hair was dry, she would rest. Master, it's done. Lung Shuang took a step back and helped her fix her hair. In, she replied, and put the book in her hand back in her space. Yawning, she was about to go back to her room to rest when she saw a figure rushing over. Chapter 408. Her footsteps, which had been heading inside, paused. She turned around and slightly raised an eyebrow at the person who had come. Her eyes sparkled, and her red lips slightly parted. The Imperial guards have surrounded our Feng Manor. What do they want to do? They want us to hand over the person who beat the crown prince of Qingtong. Seeing that she was only wearing undergarments, Qi Kong quickly lowered his head. At this time, Lung Shuang had already taken out her outer clothes from inside. While helping her put it on, she tied the belt around her waist. Lung Shuang used a ribbon to tie up her ink-black hair. After tidying it up simply, he stood to the side. Let's go take a look. She tidied up her clothes and began to walk outside. Yes. Qi Kong complied and quickly followed. At this time, outside the Feng Manor, the Imperial guards were holding torches and surrounding the entire Feng Manor. The light from the torches illuminated a large area, making it as bright as day. Aside from the two groups of Imperial guards surrounding the Feng Manor, there were two groups of approximately 50 people standing on the left and right sides of the main entrance. Each of them had their heads held high and their chests puffed out. They were led by two generals of the Imperial Guard. They were clad in silver armor and had long swords at their waists. They exuded a sharp aura. Upon closer inspection, one could see excitement and viciousness in their expressions. In regards to carrying out this order to capture the person in the Feng Manor, they were very excited. They were very clear on what the Feng family meant. The Feng family's guards, known as the Feng Guards, were all considered the most outstanding soldiers and guards by the outside world. They had wanted to compete with them a long time ago, but they did not have the chance before. Now that they had the chance, they naturally would not let it go. Eldest young Miss Feng, we have received orders from the country's ruler to capture the person who beat the crown prince of Qingtong. Would eldest young Miss Feng please hand him over? The voice of one of the two generals in the lead was filled with profound energy. It was especially clear in the night. Once this voice came out, it was heard by everyone in the Feng Manor. It also caused the citizens that had come to watch to be extremely shocked. Beat the crown prince of Qingtong? It couldn't be, right? Was this real or fake? Go, knock on the door. The general gestured and had the two Imperial guards go forward to knock on the door. However, just as the two walked forward and before their raised hands could land, they saw the Feng Manor's gates slowly open. The Feng Manor's eldest young miss, dressed in red, appeared through the gates. Her beautiful face and demonic aura caused the two guards standing in front of the gates to stare in a daze. Lung Shuang, who was standing beside Fengjio, saw the two guards staring at her master in a daze. Their eyes were drooling with desire and amazement. She immediately kicked them away. Scram! His cold voice was as cold as frost, and a sharp intent accompanied his shout. The two Imperial guards were unable to avoid the kick because they were too engrossed in watching. They took the full brunt of the kick and fell onto the ground. Do you want to take action in front of my Feng Manor's gates? The red-clothed Fengjio was ostentatious and demonic. Her beautiful eyes narrowed as she looked at those people. Her beautiful face carried a 30% demonic aura and 70% indolence. The confidence and cold aura coming from between her brows caused the two Imperial guards to involuntarily lower their heads and retreat a few steps, not daring to look directly at her. Chapter 409. They knew that the Feng Manor's eldest young miss, Feng Qingge, was Dazzling Sun's #1 beauty. She was famous for her beauty. This was something that they knew a long time ago. They had seen her appear on the streets before, but why did they suddenly feel that the Feng Manor's eldest young miss was even more beautiful than before? In the past, her beauty was as gentle as water and as gentle as moonlight. Now, her beauty was as dazzling as the sun. It was so dazzling that it moved people's souls. With just a glance and a smile, it was filled with a lazy charm. Every movement was peerless. However, she was just a girl. Facing so many Imperial guards, was she not afraid? Thinking of this, everyone calmed down and looked at her. They began to worry for her in their hearts. The two generals at the front saw that she had come out and walked forward. Their sharp gazes fell on her face as they impolitely said, "Eldest young Miss Feng, we have come under orders. Please hand over the person who beat Qing Tung's crown prince. The emperor has ordered that if eldest young Miss Feng is harboring a criminal, you will be taken away for the same crime." Beat Qing Tung's crown prince? When did this happen? How come I didn't know about it? She raised an eyebrow and looked at the two generals with a mocking expression. Hearing that she did not admit to it, the two generals' faces immediately sank. "The person you sent to the palace tonight is Qing Tung's crown prince. Eldest young Miss Feng, you should quickly hand him over. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." "Oh, how do you want to be impolite?" The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she looked at them with a cold gaze. "What are you trying to do by bringing Imperial guards to surround my Feng Manor in the middle of the night? And who is it that gave you this right? If you don't give a reason, I really won't be polite with you. Speak. Who gave you the right to surround the Feng Manor?" With her cold snort, a series of disorderly yet powerful shouts rang out. The voices were full of energy, sharp and cold. They carried a frightening aura of killing intent. Once the shouts came out, everyone could feel a faint aura of Xian energy in the air. What was even more shocking was that the voice did not seem to have come from within the Feng Manor. Instead, it seemed to have come from behind them, or even from all around them. In an instant, the Imperial guards could not help but reveal shocked expressions. It was as if they had not surrounded the Feng Manor, but rather the Feng Manor's people had surrounded them. Almost at the same time, the surrounding commoners, and even some of the family clans' faces faintly showed shock and horror. Phoenix Guards. It was the Feng Manor's trump card army, the Feng Guards. They were already hiding in Unravel City. So that's how it is. No wonder the people of the Feng Manor dared to be so fearless. It turned out that the Feng Guards were guarding Unravel City, guarding the Feng Manor. For a moment, waves of shock surged in their hearts, and they were inexplicably excited. Did the Feng family want to go against the Imperial family? If it was another family, they naturally did not have the strength. If it was the Feng family, they might really have the strength to overthrow Morongbo. When they thought of this possibility, their hearts were filled with excitement and anticipation. Chapter 410. Are you trying to rebel? The leading general angrily pointed at Fengjiu and shouted with a trembling voice. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a figure flashed forward and grabbed his wrist, twisting it to the side and breaking it. With a crack, the sound of bones breaking rang out clearly in the night, accompanied by the general's shrill scream. "Hiss! Ah!" The piercing scream entered the ears of the Imperial guards, causing them to be shocked. At the same time, they instinctively drew their swords from their waists. However, at the same time, their commander was fiercely thrown to the ground with a bang. Only a muffled groan was heard, and even the mournful scream quieted down. Seeing the motionless person on the ground and the Phoenix Guard with a stern expression, their hearts trembled. Cold sweat covered their bodies, and they did not dare to go forward. "Do you see? This is the fate of those who are disrespectful to my master." Wei Feng, one of the 8 Phoenix Guards, swept his gaze over the surrounding Imperial Guards. In the end, his gaze landed on the other general, who was retreating with a pale face. "Did you not hear my master's words? Speak. Who gave you the authority to surround the Feng Manor?" Hearing this, the general took a deep breath. Thinking that this was an order from the king, he felt a bit more confident. He straightened his back and looked at the Phoenix Guard. He sternly said, "Naturally, it was an order from the king." "Ridiculous." Feng Jiu coldly snorted. "My grandfather Feng was an important official in the founding of Yaori, and my father was a general protecting Yaori. Even if our Feng family has handed over power, no one can take away his contributions. How wise is the king? How could he bully a weak woman like me while my grandfather is missing and my father is unconscious?" Her voice was sonorous and powerful. She spoke loudly of the Morong bow, but every word was filled with hidden sharpness. It was so forceful that the general could not resist and retreated. For a moment, he was caught in a dilemma. If he admitted that he was following the king's orders, wouldn't that mean that the king was muddle-headed and tyrannical, bullying the granddaughter of an important official and the daughter of a general protecting the country, while the old master Feng was missing and Feng Xiao was unconscious? If he did not admit that he was following the king's orders, wouldn't that mean that he acted on his own and took advantage of the situation to bully the Feng family? This was a huge crime that he couldn't afford to bear. Thinking of this, he broke out in a cold sweat and his face became pale. He faintly regretted taking on this troublesome task. This was a thankless task. It was no wonder that no one fought with him over it. It was only the 2 idiots that rushed over with the Imperial Guards. "Weak woman." Not far away, the head of the Gung family and the others who did not come out under the cover of the night heard Feng Jiu's words. Their eyes were overflowing with smiles as their gazes fell on the confident and dazzling red figure. Before the old man spoke, the Gung family did not pay attention to this matter. Although they paid attention, they rarely saw the legendary eldest young miss of the Feng family. Originally, they also thought that she was a weak woman. However, from what they saw tonight, they knew that the eldest young miss of the Feng family was not a soft persimmon that could be pinched by others. Just by looking at her words, she had easily blown the matter out of proportion, causing those Imperial Guards to not dare to make a move. Just this kind of method, this kind of boldness, even the patriarchs of some clans would have to admit that they were inferior. They originally wanted to see if she needed help, but looking at the current situation, it seemed that she could handle it by herself. Chapter 411. Hand her over to this old man. That cold voice contained the powerful pressure of a cultivator. Once it came out, it was as if the air was enveloped by a powerful aura, making it difficult for people to even breathe. Some of the commoners without cultivation gradually paled under that invisible pressure. They could not even stand properly and fell to the ground. As for those with cultivation, their complexions were not too good, but they were still able to hold on. However, cold sweat seeped out of their foreheads, and the blood in their bodies began to churn. They felt their hearts tremble in fear from the powerful pressure and aura emitted by those light words. At that moment, everyone's gazes followed the source of the voice. They only saw 2 gray figures flying through the air on flying swords with their hand behind their backs. They steadily landed in front of the Feng Manor's gates and stood in front of the Feng family's eldest young miss. The 2 old men stood with their hands clasped behind their backs. They were dressed in gray robes, and there was not a single strand of black hair on their heads. Perhaps it was because of their cultivation, there was not a single wrinkle on their faces. However, from their aged voices and their heads of white hair, one could tell that they were at least over 100 years old. This was the first time the 2 had seen this girl named Feng Qingge, a girl that their highness had taken a fancy to. It could not be denied that this girl's beauty was breathtaking. However, what made people unable to take their eyes off her was not her beautiful face. Rather, it was the aura she gave off. That sort of confidence that came from deep within her bones carried an innate nobility. Her languid appearance carried a trace of evil charm. Her red clothes were dazzling and ostentatious. She was devilishly charming and wanton. With this kind of aura and beautiful face, she was truly beautiful to the extreme. Even if one only saw her once, it would be difficult to forget her. Even in their country of Qing Tung, it was likely that they would not be able to find a girl who could compare to her. It was no wonder that their highness could not let her go after seeing her once. He wanted to take her in as a secondary princess and had even personally come from Qing Tung to this small ninth-tier country to personally bring this girl back. Seeing that this woman was going to be his highness's concubine, the two old men's expression softened. The pressure on their bodies was slightly restrained, and their aged voices carried a sharp tone. Eldest young Miss Feng, your subordinates beat up his highness. Could it be that you want to just let it go? It's best if you hand her over. Otherwise, even if you become his highness's concubine, we won't be polite to you. Hearing this, Feng Jiu glanced at them with a strange expression. What do you mean by becoming his highness's concubine? What did I agree? Don't talk nonsense and ruin my reputation. When the two old men heard this, they frowned. Didn't your king tell you? We've already sent people here. Our highness came here specifically to take you away. To be able to become our highness's woman, you must have accumulated several lifetimes of good fortune. She chuckled and glanced at the two of them. Fortune? Then you should leave it to others. I'm not interested in this kind of fortune. She looked at the general who had retreated to the side and raised her eyebrows. She said in a clear voice, "Why aren't you guys scramming? Do you really want us to make a move?" Perhaps it was because the two old men had arrived. The general's confidence increased. He raised his chin and looked at her with disdain as he said arrogantly, "Eldest young Miss Feng, you're still a general." Chapter 412. Looking again, they only saw a pair of slender, white hands wrapped around the general's neck. It looked like she did not use much strength, but it caused the general's face to turn pale. He could not even speak. The arrogance and insufferably arrogant expression on his face disappeared without a trace. All that remained was shock and fear. The surrounding atmosphere froze because of her actions. Not a single sound could be heard. Everyone stared in shock at the woman who had suddenly acted. At this moment, the cold aura around her body was extremely heavy. It was also accompanied by a murderous aura that was not inferior to anyone else's. At this moment, a smile appeared on her beautiful face. However, this smile did not reach her eyes. No matter how they looked at it, they could feel the dangerous aura and murderous aura coming from her body. Was this the same Feng Chinga from before, who was even standing lazily? At this moment, everyone only felt that this was a bloodthirsty female Azura. Did you not hear what I said? Don't you know that I don't like repeating the same words? Since you don't want to scram, then you can stay here forever. Her gentle voice was filled with a cold, murderous aura. She tightened her grip, not giving the general any chance to struggle or resist. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. The general's legs kicked off, and all the strength in his body seemed to have disappeared. His life force was cut off, and his arms and legs powerlessly fell to the ground. Hiss! Her swift and fierce action of killing as she pleased shocked the surrounding people, causing them to suck in a breath of cold air. Her actions were swift and decisive. There was practically no chance for anyone to stop or react. That general died so easily at her hands. Currently, the Feng Manor was in the middle of a storm. How could she dare to kill as she wished? Moreover, that was someone sent by the country's lord. Her actions were clearly causing a ruckus and not giving the country's lord any face. Could it be that she was truly not afraid of Murong Bo destroying the Feng Manor in his anger? At that moment, everyone was shocked by her actions. As a result, most of them had overlooked an extremely important matter. That general was a middle-stage martial grandmaster. But how could he be so easily killed by her without even being able to put up any resistance? Only the Gung family's patriarch noticed this. He exclaimed softly and looked at Feng Jiu with surprise and scrutiny. Killing a martial grandmaster so effortlessly was definitely something that only a martial greatmaster could do. However, she did not have the aura of a martial greatmaster. Yet, her movements were so exquisite and her speed was so fast that the general could not protect himself or retreat. From this, it could be seen that her power was unfathomable. Suddenly, he became curious about the Feng family's eldest young miss. He originally thought that she would need their help, but he didn't expect to see such a scene tonight. And tonight's scene made him understand even more clearly that the Feng family was not as simple as it appeared to be to outsiders. Even if the old Master Feng had gone missing and Feng Xiao was unconscious, the Feng Manor had the eldest young Miss Feng protecting it. Nobody dared to touch it. However, what kind of attitude would the Crown Prince of the Qingting Kingdom have? If she really was determined to have her, and looking at eldest young Miss Feng's intentions, it was clear that she had no interest in the Crown Prince. It was clear that tonight's matter was caused by Qing Tang's Crown Prince being beaten up when he went to the Feng Manor at night. Beating up Qing Tang's Crown Prince? Chapter 413. When a surrounding Imperial Guard saw that she had killed the general on the spot, fear appeared on their faces, and they all retreated. There were over 100 of them, and only 2 generals were leading them. Now, one of them was dead, and the other was seriously injured. If they went forward at this time, wouldn't they be seeking their own deaths? When the 2 old men saw that Feng Jiu had killed someone without any hesitation, they couldn't help but be a little surprised. They were surprised by her strange skills and ruthlessness. After all, they originally thought that she was a woman with nothing but beauty. They didn't expect that she would be so ruthless in her actions. However, if she was ordinary, she wouldn't have caught the eye of their highness. Seeing that the surrounding Imperial Guards were retreating step by step with fear on their faces, the 2 old men snorted heavily. One of them shouted, "Useless! You're scared just because one person died? Have you forgotten your monarch's orders? Everyone go, other than eldest young Miss Feng. Capture everyone else in Feng Manor." Hearing this, Feng Jiu's eyes turned cold. Just as she was about to speak, she heard an angry shout. She couldn't help but freeze in place. "Let's see who dares." An old voice was full of energy. That strong voice was accompanied by a powerful martial ancestor aura. As soon as the voice was released, circles of Xian energy visible to the naked eye rippled in the air. When the Gung family heard that voice, they were stunned. They all turned around and saw a gray figure striding over angrily. There were many people following behind him. When they saw that person, the Gung family quickly went up to greet him. "Father, why are you here?" Family head Gung quickly asked. He didn't expect that the old man would also come. However, old man Gung ignored him. Instead, he strode forward. His sharp eyes scanned the surroundings. When they fell on the 2 old men, they paused for a moment. Then, he strode over to Feng Jiu. "Feng family's girl, don't be afraid. Your grandfather isn't here. This old man will protect you." Old man Gung looked at Feng Jiu, who was staring blankly at him. He thought to himself, this child is scared by these people. Looking at her, she doesn't know how to react. A child without an adult to protect her is really pitiful. Thinking of this, his heart became even more soft. His originally fierce face also pulled out a smile as much as possible. He softened his voice and said, "Feng family's girl, you don't need to be afraid. With this old man here, no one dares to hurt you." At this moment, everyone in the Feng family was dumbfounded, especially Feng Jiu. She stared blankly at the old man who was trying to comfort her with a stiff smile. Hearing his words, she felt inexplicably warm in her heart. She didn't expect that he would stand up at such a time and say such words to her. She had to admit that her grandfather's old friend was really good. Thinking of this, she showed a sweet smile. The evil aura on her body seemed to disappear with her sweet smile. What appeared was the innocence and freshness of a girl next door. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, no one would believe that she had broken the general's neck without even blinking. Grandpa Gong. Chapter 414. I remember, when I was young, Grandpa Gung gave me osmanthus cakes to eat. She pursed her lips and smiled. Her face was pure and harmless. Ha ha ha. Feng family's girl's memory is really good. This old man hasn't come to your Feng family for many years, yet you still remember this old man. You really are an obedient and sensible child. He was very gratified. It was as if he was looking at his own granddaughter. He felt that even his own granddaughter might not remember his good deeds after not seeing him for so many years. Moreover, he had only brought her a few osmanthus cakes back then, and this child remembered them until now. Sure enough, she was a pure and obedient child. If other people knew that he thought of Fengjiu like this, they would probably be speechless. If he hadn't seen her kill someone without blinking, perhaps it would have been fine. After seeing her ruthlessness and strangeness, and hearing the old man say that she was a well-behaved and sensible child, he only felt that these words were strange no matter how he listened to it. Moreover, was it really good for the two of them to reminisce in this kind of situation? There was still a corpse on the ground that was not completely cold, and there were still over 100 Imperial guards surrounding it. There were also the two elders from the Qing Tang Kingdom. They were all glaring at them like tigers watching their prey. However, the two of them did not seem to notice and began to chat. After seeing this scene, the head of the Gung family could only bitterly smile. His father had just arrived and did not see the scene from before. He also did not see the Feng family's eldest young Miss Viciousness. At this moment, he really thought of her as an innocent and obedient little girl. What made him feel strange and dumbfounded was that the Feng family's eldest young miss, who originally had a demonic aura and carried a lazy and noble aura, had completely concealed her aura at this moment. She was as harmless as the girl next door. It really made him speechless. I know about this matter. Don't worry. Your grandfather is not here. Grandpa Gung will protect you. Old man Gung nodded. While speaking to Fengjiu, he looked at the Imperial guards with a stern gaze. His dignified voice was filled with sternness. You people are dazzling Sun's Imperial guards. What? Now you want to listen to the orders of two people from another country to deal with the country's general's daughter? You really are a group of heartless people. Today, this old man will say these words. My Gung family will definitely protect the people of the Feng Manor. Whoever dares to touch the Feng Manor, don't blame my Gung family for being impolite. Hearing this, the guards who wanted to step forward hesitated. That's right. Those two were from the Qingting Kingdom. Even if they wanted to listen to orders, they shouldn't listen to them. Moreover, one of the generals was dead and the other was injured. Why not take the opportunity to retreat? Ask for the monarch's permission before making a decision? Thinking of this, one of the Imperial guards shouted for the troops to retreat. The next moment, the Imperial guards came forward and carried away the dead and injured general. They came in a hurry and left in a hurry, but they looked a little embarrassed. Seeing this, the faces of the two old men turned gloomy, and they stared sharply at Old Man Gung with killing intent in their eyes. What an ignorant old man. You want to stand out? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. Chapter 415. Seeing the old man attacking, Master Gung's eyes darkened. He pushed Fengjiu behind him and said, Feng family's girl, quickly move aside. As soon as he finished speaking, he mobilized the Xian Qi in his body. He suddenly took a step forward and clenched his fist to meet the old man's attack. Fengjiu, who was pushed to the back, was slightly moved. She watched as the old man pushed her away and went up to meet the old man. She watched as the old man's Xian Qi surged and his steps were steady. He fearlessly met the old cultivator. For a moment, she only felt an indescribable feeling in her heart. All sorts of feelings welled up in her heart. A smile that came from the bottom of her heart quietly blossomed on her lips, like a delicate flower slowly blooming, causing her originally beautiful face to become even more beautiful because of this smile that came from the bottom of her heart. When Master Gung saw his father meet the old cultivator, his heart tightened. The other party was a cultivator. Even if he was in the foundation establishment stage, His strength was not something an ordinary martial arts grandmaster could deal with. Moreover, these two people were clearly in the golden core stage, which was above the foundation establishment stage. With his father's martial arts grandmaster cultivation, could he really deal with a golden core stage cultivator? The answer was, it was impossible. He couldn't help but look at the woman in red. However, he saw her smiling and looking at the scene that had already begun. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. What was wrong with the eldest daughter of the Feng family? Couldn't she see that his father was no match for that cultivator? Whoosh! Bang, bang, bang. One of them was a mid-stage martial arts grandmaster Shin martial artist, while the other was a golden core stage immortal cultivator. Both of their strengths were considered to be among the best among the spectators. Hence, when the pressure and aura from their bodies surged, the surrounding air pressure seemed to be enveloped by a dark cloud. It instantly became low, making it difficult for the spectators to even breathe. Some people who couldn't bear the pressure had already quietly retreated to a distant place to avoid being affected by the pressure in Xianqi. When the strong fought, the speed was so fast that they couldn't see it at all. They only saw the two gray figures fighting from the ground to the air, and then from the air to the ground. The Xianqi surging around the two was as sharp as a knife, making the onlookers hold their breaths. This was a battle between experts. The weak couldn't get involved at all. Even if they wanted to help, not everyone had the ability to do so under such circumstances. The pressure and airflow of those two people were so sharp that if one did not have the corresponding strength, one would not be able to get close to them. In the face of such an expert, they couldn't help but feel their blood boiling. How great would it be if they also had such cultivation? Bang! The two men's palms collided and struck out. Two streams of qi shot out. The strong man stood firm and did not retreat, while the weak man was pushed back several meters. He staggered and almost lost his balance. Father, seeing that the old man was repelled and was no match for the opponent's cultivator, Patriarch Gung exclaimed and wanted to go forward. However, the other gold core old man who was standing on the side with his hand behind his back snorted and waved his sleeve. Patriarch Gung instantly retreated several meters away and couldn't even get close. Oof. If you don't have the ability, then don't force yourself. The gold core cultivator snorted heavily and glanced at Patriarch Gung and the others. It was obvious that he wanted to kill Old Man Gung to shock everyone. Chapter 416. Father, Grandpa, Old Master. Hearing the exclamations of his descendants, the old man steadied himself and glared at them. It was as if he didn't see the fatal palm strike from the gold core cultivator. He shouted angrily at them. What are you shouting for? This old man isn't dead yet. Hearing this, Fengjiu couldn't help but laugh. She looked at the old man with bright eyes. At this moment, no one noticed that she was playing with a silver needle in her hands under her sleeves. Her smiling eyes fell on old Master Gung, then glanced at the gold core cultivator who attacked him. She moved her hand and shot out the silver needle. At the same time, she shouted loudly in a tone of worship. Grandpa Gung, you can do it. You're the best. The gold core cultivator was startled by her sudden shout. At that moment, he felt as if something was wrong with his body, but he didn't care. He just sneered. The best. This Miss Feng is really naive. But in the next moment, his expression changed drastically. Haha, good. Feng family's girl is still the one who wins my heart, unlike those in my family who only look down on this old man. Like a naughty child, old Master Gung was overjoyed by her cheering. He stopped laughing and widened his tiger-like eyes. He gathered all the qi in his body into his hands and abruptly struck forward while shouting at the same time. Jack! The moment old Master Gung's hand struck out, a powerful qi aura that was visible to the naked eye gathered and rushed out from his hands like a river. It collided with the gold core cultivator, whose expression changed drastically. Suddenly, the gold core cultivator was hit by 1,000 pounds of force, and his whole body was sent flying 100 meters away. Bang! When the heavy blow landed on the gold core cultivator's body, there seemed to be the sound of bones breaking. However, it was covered by the sharp cry of the gold core cultivator, so no one noticed it. Huh? Old Master Gung felt a little strange when he saw that the gold core cultivator was sent flying by him without even being able to resist. Logically speaking, the other party was a gold core cultivator. Although he had gathered 1,000 pounds of force in his attack, he shouldn't have been able to withstand it without being able to resist. What was wrong? Not to mention the old man himself. Even the people around him were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. That was a gold core cultivator. How could a middle-stage martial ancestor realm cultivator deal with a gold core cultivator? Moreover, he was able to send the gold core cultivator flying 100 meters away with a single palm? That's too strong. My master, when did the old man become so strong? A member of the Gung family swallowed his saliva and stared at old Master Gung with bright eyes. Family head Gung's heart was also fluctuating violently at this time. He felt that this scene was somewhat unbelievable and illogical, but he could not tell what exactly was wrong. At this time, the other golden core cultivator stared at old man Gung with wide eyes and muttered, "This is impossible. This is impossible. This is not right." Chapter 417. Grandpa Gung, you're amazing. Old man Gung turned around and saw that the girl from the Feng family had come to his side. Her eyes were shining as she looked at him excitedly. Seeing this, old man Gung was overjoyed. He felt as if his whole body was as light as a feather. He even abandoned the trace of doubt in his heart and stopped thinking about it. Instead, he laughed heartily. It seems that this old man has not aged. Ha ha. He put one hand on his waist and stroked his beard with the other. He raised his head and laughed heartily with a proud look on his face. Seeing this, Feng Jiao pursed her lips and smiled. She felt that old man Gung was somewhat similar to her grandfather. Her gaze shifted and fell on the gold core cultivator who had been hit 100 meters away. A faint light flashed in her eyes. If it weren't for the fact that the other party was a golden core cultivator and had a strong cultivation base to protect his body, old man Gung's attack would have killed him. But now, it seemed that it wouldn't be easy for him to recover without resting for 10 days to half a month. At this time, the other old man who had recovered from the shock did not step forward to fight with old man Gung. Instead, he rushed to the old man who had fallen to the ground and helped him up. What happened? Why couldn't you block that palm? Cough, cough. The old man who was helped up coughed twice and spat out a mouthful of blood. He covered his chest with one hand and felt that his sternum had been broken. He had suffered a very serious internal injury. He could not help but look at old man Gung unwillingly. Let's go back first," he said resentfully. There was a fire of anger burning in his heart. A dignified gold core cultivator had been defeated by an intermediate martial ancestor realm cultivator. This was a disgrace. Seeing this, the old man did not say anything and quickly helped him leave. Good, ha ha. Cheers and laughter rang out in the night. The praise and excitement that came from the bottom of their hearts made the two gold core cultivators angry. Hearing the deafening laughter and cheers behind them, they felt humiliated as if they had been slapped in the face. Just you wait. That golden core cultivator turned around and fiercely threw down a sentence that made everyone laugh. This kind of threat was usually used by people who left with their tails between their legs. It would have been better if he didn't say it, but once he said it, everyone laughed even louder. "Father, are you all right?" Family head Gung strode to old man Gung's side and looked him up and down. He was worried that old man Gung had been injured by the palm strike. I'm fine. Old man Gung waved his hand and looked at Feng Jiao with a smile. "Feng Jiao, although it's already night, I think it's necessary to have a good talk with you." Hearing this, Feng Jiao's eyes flickered. He smiled and said, "Grandpa Gung, please." Then, he turned sideways and gestured for him to enter. "Everyone else has gone back. Come in with me." Old Master Gung turned around and signaled Family Head Gung to follow him. Seeing this, Family Head Gung gave some instructions and followed the old man into Feng Manor. Feng Jiu looked around and said to Qi Kong and the others, "Since the phone guards are here, let's organize them. Have them show their identities and stand guard around Feng Manor. Wait for my arrangements." "Yes." Chapter 4:18. Inside the Feng Manor. Feng Jiu invited Old Master Geng and Family Head Geng into the hall. After inviting them to take a seat, the servants served tea and left. In the hall, other than Lung Shuang, who was standing beside Feng Jiu, there was only Old Master Geng and his son. Everyone else was waiting outside. Feng family's girl, this old man has been cultivating in seclusion recently. I only heard about what happened to your Feng family after I came out of seclusion. Now that your grandfather is not around, and your father is unconscious, what do you plan to do next? Old Master Geng went straight to the point without beating around the bush. Grandpa Geng, you don't have to worry about my Feng family. You saw it tonight. Those people can't take advantage of my Feng family. I have the ability and confidence to protect the Feng family. She had a smile on her face, and her words were full of confidence. It was as if she didn't put those people in her eyes. That confidence surprised Father Geng. Where did her confidence come from? What about the crown prince of the Qingting kingdom? Morong Bo is fine. If we join forces with some other families and forces, he won't dare to do anything to you. But if it's the crown prince of the Qingting kingdom, I'm afraid that even if we want to protect him, it will be difficult. Old Master Geng worriedly expressed his worries. Hearing this, Feng Jiu smiled slightly. Tonight, the Geng family stood up for us. I'm also worried that they will cause trouble for you after this. So, I want to ask Grandpa Geng not to intervene. This way, the Geng family won't get involved in this mess. As for the solution, her voice paused slightly, and she smiled. There will always be one. Hearing this, Old Master Geng was a little surprised. Family Head Geng was a little surprised. He thought that since the Geng family stood up, eldest young Miss Feng would try her best to not let them go so that they could help the Feng family. He didn't expect that she would ask them not to get involved. Everything was for their sake. It was really unexpected. He didn't expect that although there were no men in the Feng family, eldest young Miss Feng would have such courage and confidence. It was rare. However, when he thought of how she had killed that general without even blinking in the next moment with a smile on her face, that decisive and ruthless method reminded him that she was not as harmless as she appeared. However, his father seemed to feel that this smiling Feng family's eldest young miss was an innocent and well-behaved little girl. Listening to him, instructing her from time to time, and reminding her with a worried expression, it was as if she was his granddaughter. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. The Geng father and son chatted with Feng Jiu in the hall for about 2 hours. They also asked about Feng Zhao's current situation, but Feng Jiu didn't tell them the truth. In the end, Feng Jiu personally saw them off before going to her father's courtyard to tell him about the Geng family's appearance. As for Murong Yixian, after hearing about what happened in the Feng Manor, he was silent. He stood in front of the window for a long time, thinking about something. In the imperial palace, Morong Bo was furious. After hearing the report from his subordinates, his angry roar spread throughout the entire imperial palace. Especially when he found out that the Geng family had allied with other families and factions to protect the Feng family. He was so angry that his entire body trembled. Good. Very good. Wait until the Feng family falls. This lord will definitely make them regret their actions today. Chapter 4:19. Niet Tung, who had ointment on his face, was lying on the couch with his eyes closed as he listened to the middle-aged man beside him report the events of the night. The two of them originally wanted to go to the Feng Manor to bring back the person who offended Master. However, they did not think that something like this would happen. One of them is currently kneeling in the courtyard, begging for forgiveness. The other person's injuries are not light. The accompanying doctor has already been called over. The middle-aged man carefully reported. At the same time, he paid attention to his master, who had his eyes closed, who knew if he was asleep or listening. He felt a bit uneasy. The two of them had gone to the Feng Manor without his master's orders. If they had really brought back the person, it would have been fine. However, they had gone to make a fool of themselves. He did not know how his master would punish them for this matter. After hearing his words, Niet Tung, who had his eyes closed, opened his sharp eyes. He stared at the middle-aged man and said in a heavy voice, "A golden core cultivator is not a match for a mid-stage martial ancestor. Are you joking with me?" This subordinate does not dare. However, that golden core cultivator was indeed injured. A few of his ribs were broken and his injuries were not light. As for why he was defeated, this subordinate has already had the doctor examine him to see if he was drugged. I trust that there will be news very soon. After saying this, he lowered his head, not daring to look at him. Perhaps they had been too careless and did not put the Feng family in their eyes. Not only had he and his master been defeated by the Feng family's eldest young miss, when they arrived here, they originally thought that the people here could not do anything to their master, who knew that they would be beaten up by the Feng Manor's people and sent back. And tonight, a dignified golden core cultivator had actually been defeated by a mid-stage martial ancestor cultivator. Saying this made them feel ashamed. He only knew that the recent events had truly been too much. It was just for a woman. He truly could not understand. Why did his master have so much patience to slowly waste time with her? If he really wanted her, he would have sent people to capture her. He could have done it tonight. Why would he need to go through so much trouble? However, he only dared to think this dissatisfaction and anger in his heart. Speak it out, unless he did not want to live. After Niet Tung heard his words, he did not say anything else. Instead, he closed his eyes and lay down. It was unknown what he was thinking about. Until an hour later, a doctor walked in after being summoned. He respectfully bowed to Niet Tung. "This subordinate greets your highness." "Speak." Niet Tung did not even open his eyes, as he only said one word. "Your highness, this subordinate found this." He took out the silver needle from his clothes and saw the person who originally had his eyes closed open to look at him. He hurriedly said, "This silver needle was taken out from Elder Lin's Dantian." He said that he suddenly felt his spiritual power being sealed. So I checked the acupuncture points on his body and found this silver needle. To be able to accurately pierce this acupuncture point from such a distance, this person should be a medical expert. Chapter 420. A medical expert? Niet Tung looked at the middle-aged man at the side and frowned. "Did you not investigate the matter that I asked you to investigate? How can the Feng family have such a person protecting them?" As soon as his voice fell, he seemed to have thought of something, and a glint flashed across his deep and sharp eyes. "Master, this person is very likely to be the ghost doctor. However, the ghost doctor has always been elusive. Even if we want to find his whereabouts, it is extremely difficult. Moreover, his relationship with the black market is quite good. We are also helpless against him." The middle-aged man secretly sighed and reported respectfully. The appearance of the ghost doctor in the Green Ting Kingdom some time ago naturally caused an uproar. His medicine was incomparably precious. Even in the Green Tang Kingdom, there were very few pharmacists that could be compared to him. Otherwise, even the black market, which was distributed among the various strong countries, would not treat him as a distinguished guest. I didn't expect this small Feng family to be related to the ghost doctor. He curled his lips and smiled. Thinking of the woman with the beauty of city, his eyes darkened. "Unfortunately, even the ghost doctor can't snatch a woman from me." Hearing this, the middle-aged man lowered his head slightly and stood respectfully at the side. As for the doctor, he looked at Niet Tung's face that was smeared with ointment in surprise. He wanted to say, "Your Highness, your face hasn't healed yet. You're thinking of the Feng family's eldest young miss again so quickly? Could it be that you haven't been beaten enough? Your Highness, the Emperor of the Glorious Sun Empire, is outside asking for an audience." A person came in to report. He secretly glanced at Niet Tung, who had ointment on his face, then quickly lowered his head. Niet Tung naturally noticed that person's gaze. His sharp eyes swept over the person. "Let him in." "Yes." The person responded and quickly retreated. Not long after, Bo walked in. When he saw Niet Tong on the soft couch, he quickly cupped his hands and saluted. At the same time, he angrily said, "Your Highness, this Feng family is really too much. They are really daring. They actually dare to do such a thing. I originally wanted to catch them and teach them a lesson, but I didn't expect that there are no capable people under my command. I can't even catch a few people. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted. "You came here just to say this?" Nieting glanced at him, his voice carrying a hint of danger. Hearing this, Bo gently coughed and adjusted his expression, saying, "In truth, I came to tell your Highness that since the people of the Feng Manor do not know what is good for them, your Highness does not need to be lenient. Right now, I have no way of dealing with the Feng Manor, but with the strength of the country of Qing Tong, dealing with the Feng Manor is as simple as squashing an ant. Since your Highness has taken a fancy to the eldest young miss of the Feng family, why not just bring her back and slowly train her? Are you teaching me what to do?" His voice was deep and cold, and his entire body was emitting a gloomy and cold aura, which made Bo slightly shocked. Bo braced himself and said, "I don't dare. It's just that I feel that there is no need for your Highness to waste so much energy on a girl." The middle-aged man to the side nodded. That's right. He also felt that there was no need to waste so much energy on a girl. It was just a girl. If Master wanted her, then bring her over. When Master had her, perhaps his interest in her would fade. Chapter 421. After Nietang glanced at Bo, he looked at the doctor standing to the side and asked in a low and dignified voice, "Will the injury on this lord's face be healed by tomorrow?" Hearing this, the doctor hurriedly glanced at Nietang. After seeing the black ointment on Nietang's face, he lowered his eyes and respectfully reported, "The ointment that your Highness applied is our Qing Tong's secret black spirit ointment. This ointment is most effective in promoting blood circulation and removing blood stasis. There's no need to wait until tomorrow. In just a few hours, the swelling and bruises on your face will disappear and return to normal." Hearing this, Bo was secretly envious. Sure enough, this was a six-tier country. Even a medicine that could promote blood circulation and remove bruises was so miraculous. His face had been beaten to such a state. If it was replaced with normal medicine, it would take at least 2 or 3 days to reduce the swelling. However, their black spiritual ointment only took a few hours. He really wanted to see what kind of medicine was used to make this miraculous ointment. After hearing the doctor's words, Nietang's gloomy aura finally eased a bit. He closed his eyes and ordered, "Have the people below carry the betrothal gifts off the flying boat. Once the sun rises, follow this lord to the Feng Manor to pick up the person." Hearing this, the middle-aged man's eyes lit up, and he quickly replied, "Yes." Following this, he walked out and gave the people below his Highness orders. He had them carry the betrothal gifts off the flying boat and follow their master to the Feng Manor once the sun rose. In his opinion, since his master had given the order to go to the Feng Manor to pick up the person, then there was no one that could not be picked up. This time, they had 8 golden core cultivators accompanying them. Among them, for we're at the peak of the golden core stage. Aside from this, there were around 100 guards accompanying them. He did not believe that with their strength, they would not be able to pick up a trifling Feng Manor's eldest young miss. After hearing Nietang's orders, Bo happily cupped his hands and retreated. He secretly thought, this time, no matter how the Feng Manor's people protect her, they will not be able to stop Nietang's determination to take Feng Qinggu away. As long as Feng Qinggu is taken away, the Feng Manor will have no one to take charge. When that time comes, he will add fuel to the fire. Would the Feng Manor not fall? Thinking of this, his heart was secretly excited. Even his face revealed a smile because of this. Until the next morning. On this day, when the sun had just risen, the sound of firecrackers was heard 3 times. The loud sound reverberated through the sky, breaking the tranquility of Yunus City's morning. When the citizens of the city came out to take a look out of curiosity and saw the betrothal gifts being carried towards the Feng Manor, they were all a bit shocked. They all followed behind the betrothal gifts to join in the fun. Along the way, everyone discussed and found out that there were 8 cultivators on horseback protecting the area. Inside the palanquin carried by the 8 guards was Qing Tang Country's crown prince, Nietong. Does Crown Prince Qingting really want to take eldest Miss Feng as his concubine? Wasn't it said that the people of the Feng Manor did not agree? Are you trying to force me to marry you? What's wrong with forced marriage? In this world, the strong were respected. The power of the country of Qing Tang was terrifying. Even the country's ruler did not dare do anything to them. Could it be that the people of the Feng Manor dared to resist? Last night, there was even that incident. This morning, he brought the betrothal gifts to the Feng Manor. This is clearly a forced marriage. As I see it, if Crown Prince Qing Tang does not bring eldest young Miss Feng into his inner palace, he would not give up. This is all because of his beauty. Chapter 422. Also, the one who has taken a liking to her is the crown prince of the country of Qing Tang. That is the crown prince of a 6th-tier, powerful country. The official princess will definitely be a proud daughter of the powerful country. If eldest young Miss Feng truly marries over, I fear that she will not have many good years ahead of her. That's right. Who doesn't know that there are many schemes and schemes in large families? Everyone discussed this until they arrived in front of the Feng Manor's gates. Seeing the procession in front stop, they lowered their voices, fearing that the people in front would hear them. Because the movements of Crown Prince Qing Tang's group were not small, practically all of Yunyu City was alarmed. Quite a few people from various families went to take a look. They felt that the Feng Manor had truly experienced many things recently, with one troublesome matter after another. They thought that the Feng Manor would collapse during this period of time, but it remained there without anyone being able to shake it. Apparently, after what happened last night, the Feng guards hidden in the city had already revealed their identities and were guarding the Feng Manor. Seeing what had happened this morning, they truly wanted to know, would the Feng Manor and Crown Prince Qing Tang's people start fighting? When Crown Prince Qing Tang's group carried the betrothal gifts toward the Feng Manor, because of the large movements, before they even got close to the Feng Manor, the people in the Feng Manor could already hear the joyous sounds of gongs and drums. Thus, the manor's housekeeper quickly went to Fengjiu's courtyard and ran into Leng Shuang, who was about to leave. Leng Shuang, has eldest young Miss woken up? He stopped him and quickly asked. She hasn't woken up yet. What's going on outside? Why is it so noisy? Leng Shuang spoke with a cold expression. The noise outside was too loud. Even the people inside could hear it. If this continued, it would disturb the eldest young Miss rest. Isn't it just the crown prince of the country of Qing Tang? He brought people carrying the betrothal gifts to our Feng Manor. You should be at the gates by now. As soon as I received the news, I quickly came over to see if the eldest young Miss had woken up. Hearing this, Leng Shuang furrowed his brow. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Fengjiu's voice from inside the room. Leng Shuang, go call Luo Yu over. Leng Shuang was slightly startled when he heard the somewhat hoarse and gloomy voice in the room. He immediately responded, yes. As soon as his voice fell, he went outside. Young Miss, Crown Prince Qing Tang's men are here with the betrothal gifts. They should be arriving at the entrance soon. The butler hurriedly said after recovering from the shock, his eyes filled with worry. Tell Qi Kong and the others to go ahead and take a look. Tell the Phoenix Guards not to act rashly and wait for my orders. Hearing this, the butler quickly replied, okay, I'll go right away. At this moment, the atmosphere in the room had become cold due to the mood of the people in the room. The atmosphere was somewhat gloomy, and a dangerous atmosphere filled the air, making people shudder. Fengjiu sat up from the bed. Her ink-black hair was slightly messy, and her eyes were slightly red. It was as if she was angry, but also as if it was caused by the rise of anger. In short, she gave off the feeling that she was suppressing her anger, but she could not stop the anger from spreading. Damn Qingting Crown Prince. Damn Yetung, tormenting me all day long. Since you've sent yourselves to die, how can I not help you? She was not sleepy enough, so she got up with an explosive temper. Her entire aura was extremely gloomy and terrifying. After getting out of bed, she quickly washed up, changed her clothes, opened the door, and walked out. At this moment, she happened to see Lung Shuang bringing Luo Yu in. Chapter 423. Luo Yu was a bit stunned as he looked at the person wearing red clothes and emitting a savage aura. If it were not for that familiar face, and knowing that the Feng Manor was heavily guarded, he really would have thought that his master had been impersonated by someone else. Lung Shuang saw this and was fine because she had taken care of her master. She naturally knew that she had a temper when she woke up. Also, it was fine if she did not explode, but once she did, it was not a small matter. The people of Qing Tang Kingdom kept bringing trouble to the Feng Manor. Not to mention their master, but even they felt angry seeing this. Feng Jiu's entire body was covered in a cold aura. Her cold and murderous gaze glanced at Luo Yu. She then walked over to the table in the yard and sat down, saying, "Bring out some of your grenades." While she spoke, she had already pulled out 7 or 8 small bottles from her space. "Oh yes." Luo Yu, who had recovered, responded. He quickly pulled out 7 or 8 grenades that he had already prepared from his cosmos bag. They had all been increased in power, but when he saw his master actually open up the grenades that he had prepared and remake them, he could not help but feel a bit dumbfounded. It couldn't be, right? Master even knew how to do this? It was filled with gunpowder. She actually took them apart just like that? But the more he looked, the wider his eyes became. He originally thought that she would break them, but who knew that after she took them apart, she would mix in a number of different powders. She then reassembled the grenades. The 7 or 8 grenades on the table were all the same and had been taken apart by her. "Master, how do you know how to reassemble grenades? How do you know how to make them?" This was something that even his master did not know how to make. This was something that he had modified based on firecrackers. It was also very powerful, but when it came to his master, why did it not seem to be a problem at all? I played with him before," she replied, but her hands did not stop moving. As the head of the modern hidden sect, she was an abnormal genius that gathered all the strengths of the various sections. She was proficient in medicine, poison, and assassination. She was called a monster by the world. So how could she not know how to make grenades? She had played with them before? Luo Yu was startled, seeing that she was even more proficient than him. He paused and curiously asked, "Master, what is the use of the powder that you mixed in? Wouldn't the powder not ignite if it was mixed in with the powder?" He had never tried it before. It had to be known that the proportions could not be wrong. If there was a mistake, the grenades would be destroyed and it would not be considered a success. After she had finished reassembling the grenades on the table, she looked at Luo Yu and revealed a strange cold smile. "You want to know?" "You will know in a bit." Luo Yu's heart trembled when he saw the strange and cold smile on her face. Seeing her get up to wash her hands, he quickly moved to Lung Shuang's side and asked in a low voice, "Lung Shuang, what's wrong with Master?" Actually, he really wanted to say that his master looked really scary today. Hearing this, Luo Yu's anxious heart finally relaxed. Grumpy after waking up? That was good. It was said that people with grumpy after waking up would not be in a good mood if they were woken up because they did not get enough sleep. However, it would be fine after a while. Phew! Luo Yu secretly sighed in his heart. In the future, he must not walk into the muzzle of a gun. Otherwise, Luo Yu could not help but shiver when he thought of the cold and strange smile on his master's face. Chapter 424. Feng Jiu, who had finished washing her hands, glanced at Luo Yu and said, "Take the cannons on the table and come with me." "Yes." Luo Yu hurriedly and respectfully responded. He stepped forward and took the things on the table, then followed behind her and went out. Luo Yu and the other's master stood guard in Feng Zhao's courtyard to ensure his safety. As for Qi Kong and the others, they stood guard in front of the Feng Manor. At this time, in front of the Feng Manor's gates, two groups of people were facing each other. One group was carrying the betrothal gifts, and the other group was a group of valiant Phoenix guards wearing silver armor. About 100 meters away, the onlookers watched the two groups of people face each other with strange expressions. This was the first time they had seen such a way of welcoming a bride. However, as for the forced marriage, they figured that they would have to fight in the end. Who would win if these two groups of people fought? Although they thought this, almost everyone knew that although the Feng Manor's Phoenix Guards were outstanding, they were not qualified to fight against the cultivators of the country of Qingtong. Moreover, the cultivators that the Crown Prince of Qingtong had brought were not weak. It had to be known that a golden core cultivator's battle prowess was comparable to 100 or even 1,000 guards. No matter how many people there were in the Feng Manor, without a corresponding amount of strength, they would not be able to fight against them. His Highness the Crown Prince has personally come to welcome the bride. Why are you still not opening the Feng Manor's gates? A golden core cultivator stepped forward and shouted. The pressure of a golden core cultivator spread out like ripples in water, attacking the Phoenix Guards blocking the Feng Manor's gates. The pressure of a golden core cultivator was not something the Phoenix Guards could withstand. With just this shout, they all felt the blood in their chests churn. The taste of blood rushed to their throats, wanting to escape from their mouths. Their bodies became stiff from the shout that contained pressure. They had a feeling that they could not move even if they wanted to. That powerful pressure caused their eyes to become bloodshot. One by one, the iron-willed men stood straight, glaring at the golden core cultivator. In response, a look of surprise flashed through the golden core cultivator's eyes. The strength of these Phoenix Guards was only at the level of a great martial master, yet they could still stand upright in the face of his gold core pressure. It had to be said that he had a whole new level of respect for them. If it was anyone else, even if it was a Foundation establishment stage cultivator, they would not dare to glare at him under his pressure. It could only be said that the Feng Manor's Feng Guards were truly unyielding men. Each one of them had a body of steel and would not easily yield to anyone. It was no wonder that the Feng Manor's Feng Guards were able to intimidate the surrounding countries. Qi Kong and the others stood guard in front of the gate, staring at the golden core cultivator. The aura of the strong cultivator made them realize how strong the cultivators from powerful countries were. That kind of strength was definitely something they could resist. Feeling that they could no longer suppress this powerful pressure, blood gushed out of their chests and was about to spurt out of their mouths. The door behind them slowly opened with a creak. It was also at this moment that the golden core cultivator in front of them finally retracted the pressure he had released. Master! The seven of them turned around and looked at her, who was dressed in red. Although they hadn't recognized her as their master yet, they instinctively called her master. However, looking at the smile on her beautiful face and the light in her half-squinted beautiful eyes, the seven of them felt a chill in their hearts and quietly retreated to the side. Chapter 425. AI, what are you all doing here? Why are you carrying boxes of things? It can't be that you want to give gifts to my Feng Manor for free, right? The red-clothed Fengzhou narrowed her eyes and glanced at the people in front of her. Her gaze swept past the boxes with a large red silk flower. Her beautiful face was filled with a sweet and innocent smile. Like a harmless little lamb, she was smiling at the luxurious palanquin that had stopped in the middle of the entrance. The golden core cultivator in front glanced at her and said in a deep voice, "Eldest young Miss Feng, today, His Highness has personally come to deliver the betrothal gifts to welcome you back to the country of Qingtong. Since you've come out, it's perfect. We'll have people accept the betrothal gifts. Come with us." Hearing this, she raised an eyebrow and looked at the boxes. Her eyes flashed with a light that others could not understand. Her lips curled into a smile. "These are the betrothal gifts." That's right. In order to show how much His Highness values eldest young Miss Feng, He specially ordered people to prepare 100 boxes of treasures as the betrothal gifts to show his sincerity. The golden core cultivator's deep voice was filled with spiritual energy. It clearly reached the ears of the people watching from 100 meters away. However, hearing that it was 100 boxes of treasures, some people revealed looks of envy, while others revealed looks of disdain and even disdain. You want to marry me with 100 boxes of treasures? That's not right. You want to take me in as a secondary princess? She slowly walked forward and said with a smile, I thought that these things were here to apologize. After all, these past 2 days, you've brought quite a bit of trouble to my Feng manor. Hearing this, quite a few people not far away gasped. They never thought that eldest young Miss Feng would dare to use this kind of tone to speak to the golden core cultivator. It had to be known that if she accidentally angered him, he could directly send her flying with a slap. The golden core cultivator frowned, and his face showed some displeasure. She was just a mere girl, yet she dared to put on airs in front of him. Did she really think she was someone important? His Highness would probably only be interested in her for a short period of time. Without His Highness' protection, it would be difficult for her to survive in the country of Qingtong. Miss Feng, do you know what you're saying? The golden core cultivator stared at her with a sharp gaze. It's your fortune that our Highness has taken a liking to you. Don't even talk about 100 chests of treasures as a betrothal gift. If it weren't for the fact that he valued you, no one would dare to do anything to you, even if he ordered his men to take you away. How dare you? Sonorous and forceful shouts of anger came from the surrounding Phoenix Guards. It was a uniform sound of anger and biting cold. Every single Phoenix Guard's profound energy aura was mixed into their shouts. Their sharp and blade-like, profound energy auras were all directed at the gold core cultivator. With this shout, a profound energy aura visible to the naked eye formed in the air and attacked the gold core cultivator. The golden core cultivator was stunned. He raised his hand and sent out a stream of spirit energy. After brushing away the airflow, he glanced at the Phoenix Guards and was secretly shocked. These people, it seemed that he had to inform His Highness that when he brought eldest Miss Feng back, he had to bring this group of Phoenix Guards with him. Such a team would definitely be a powerful one. Feng Jiu's lips curled into a playful smile as he stared at the gold core cultivator. Oh, I'm actually this honored. I'm really flattered. Chapter 4:26. Hearing this, they were puzzled. They saw the smile on her lips disappear as she spoke to Luo Yu beside her. In the next moment, they heard Luo Yu's voice that contained Xian energy. All Phoenix Guards, listen to my orders. Once these words were spoken, the people of the Qingting Kingdom instantly became alert, thinking that they were going to attack. Even the people watching from 100 meters away believed that the Feng Manor's people wanted to fight with the country of Qingtong. Thus, the people of the Gung family, who had brought quite a few people with them, looked at their family head and grandfather. Father, if the people of the Feng family and the people of the Qingting Kingdom fight, should we really help? Family head Gung looked at grandfather and asked. In reality, he was a little worried. After all, the strength of the golden core cultivator was not to be underestimated. It was not something that their people could resist. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he really did not want to create such a strong enemy for the Gung family. Let's wait and see. This girl of the Feng family said that she has the ability to handle it. I also want to see how strong she is. Grandfather Gung said as he looked at the scene in front of him with a sullen face. If the Feng family really had the strength, it was time for them to take action. Wait for orders. All the surrounding Phoenix Guards shouted in a deep voice. Their voices were deafening. They straightened their backs and held the long swords at their waists. Their eyes shone brightly, and their fighting spirit was strong. They were ready to fight at any time. Everyone, retreat 100 meters to the left and right. Luo Yu's voice rang out again. When they heard this, not only were the people of the Qingting Kingdom stunned, even the Phoenix Guards who were ready for battle were stunned. However, their good manners allowed them to carry out the order without any hesitation. They quickly retreated 100 meters to the left and right before standing still. Fengjiu stared at the people in front of her. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, but she stepped back. When she signaled Lung Shuang and the others to retreat, she said one word to Luo Yu. "Throw them." As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Yu grinned and stared at the golden core cultivators in front of him. Suddenly, he lit the fuse with a match and quickly threw out bamboo tubes. When the bamboo tube was thrown out, the golden core cultivators sneered in their hearts, but before they could react, they heard a loud bang beside them. A powerful force instantly exploded, and along with that force, there was thick smoke that filled the air, as well as cries of surprise and pain from the crowd. What the hell is that? Ah, my leg. So painful. It's so itchy. Bang, 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 bang. Amidst the chaos, blood-curdling screams rang out from within the thick smoke. Everyone watching from 100 meters away widened their eyes as they watched the bamboo tubes explode one after another. They watched as the orderly troops became chaotic amidst the loud explosions. Some guards were even sent flying several meters away. Fengqinga, a gloomy shout that contained monstrous anger, came from within the thick smoke. In the next moment, an old man protected Nietang as he rose into the air. Around the two of them, a visible spiritual aura condensed into a protective shield, protecting the two of them from the thick smoke outside. Chapter 427. As the smoke dissipated, their line of sight gradually became clear. The scene in front of them was seen by everyone standing 100 meters away. Seeing this scene, each and every one of them widened their eyes in disbelief. In front of the large Feng Manor's gate, the guards who had fallen to the ground were wailing and scratching endlessly. They no longer had their previous heroic appearance. Every single one of them had been hit by the blast. Some of their clothes were torn, some of their hair was messy, and some of their faces were covered in ash. The only ones who fared better than them were the few gold core cultivators with higher cultivation bases. Although they were also injured by the blast, they were still gold core experts after all. The blast did not cause much damage to them. Instead, they felt as if something was drilling into their skin when they were pressed down by the explosion. It was an extremely itchy and painful feeling that drove them crazy. It was only with great difficulty that they did not scratch and wail like the guards without caring about their image. "Hand over the antidote." The black-clothed, middle-aged man angrily glared at her. In the next instant, his figure flashed, and his hand turned into a claw as he attacked the Fengjiu in front of him. He planned to first grab her and have her hand over the antidote. He knew that she would definitely use some sort of trick, but he never thought that she would use medicine to deal with them. How could he have forgotten that last time he and his master had fallen into her hands, and she had used medicine? Seeing the middle-aged man attack their master, Qi Kong and the others were about to step forward when they heard a cold snort that contained a powerful pressure. Who dares to be impudent? For silhouettes rushed out in an instant. Suddenly, they waved their palms, which carried a sharp aura, towards the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man only felt a powerful blast of air come at him. It was like a wave suddenly rushing towards him, pushing him back a few meters. He was shocked. Raising his head to look, he quickly steadied himself. "Who are you people?" He saw 4 golden core cultivators standing in front of the Feng family's eldest young miss. The 4 of them protected her so that not even a drop of water could escape. They were currently angrily staring at him, and he could not help but be shocked. How could the Feng Manor of a trifling 9th-tier country have golden core cultivators protecting it? At this time, the old man protecting Nietang removed the barrier and landed with Nietang. The two of them looked at the guards on the ground and heard the wails. Their faces darkened. "Your Highness, it's only a girl. Why go through so much trouble for her?" The old man's voice was gloomy, and his entire body radiated with a chilling aura. His eyes were as sharp as a viper's as he stared at Fengjiu. The moment he opened his mouth, he said viciously, "This woman's methods are quite strange. If your Highness wants to keep her by your side, You'd better cripple her first. Nietang's face darkened as he stared at the beautiful red figure. He pursed his lips and did not say anything. However, when he saw his men fall to the ground, the anger in his heart surged. It was like a wild beast that had escaped from its cage as it clamored in his body. It seemed as though it wanted to charge out of his body and pounce on the person who had caused him to be filled with anger. Hearing the old man's words, he remained silent. He stared at Fengjiu with a deep gaze. Who knew what he was thinking? At this time, no one knew that the Yama Lord, who was wearing a black robe and emitting the aura of a king, had already entered Yinhua City. He was currently leading Hui Lang and Ying Yi towards the Feng Manor. Chapter 428. At this time, in front of the Feng Manor's gates, the atmosphere was tense. Powerful spiritual energy was emitted from the old man standing next to Nietang. The pressure could be seen with the naked eye as it transformed into sharp wind blades, attacking Fengjiu and the others. Once the pressure from the old man's body was released, even the 4 golden core cultivators in front of Fengjiu became pale. Their bodies became stiff in an instant, and they looked at the old man in shock. That was the pressure of a nascent soul cultivator. The first stage of cultivation was the Qi condensation stage, followed by the Spirit Master and Great Spirit Master. The majority of cultivators would enter the Foundation Establishment stage within 100 years, and only then would they be considered to have truly stepped onto the path of cultivation. Only then would their lifespan increase to 200 years. Above the Foundation Establishment stage was the Golden Core stage. Cultivators who entered the Golden Core stage would attract heavenly lightning. This stage was also the fatal threshold for Golden Core cultivators. If they succeeded, they would become a Golden Core cultivator, and their lifespan would increase by another 100 years. Their strength would be much stronger than Foundation Establishment cultivators. However, only 1 or 2 out of 100 Golden Core cultivators could successfully pass through the heavenly tribulation. Every year, quite a few peak Foundation Establishment cultivators would fall during the heavenly tribulation when entering the Golden Core stage. As for the nascent soul stage, it was even more rare. It was the stage above the Golden Core stage. A nascent soul cultivator's lifespan was 500 years. Their strength was terrifying. It could be said that with a wave of their hand, they could destroy a small country. With a flick of their finger, they could instantly take the life of a Golden Core cultivator. It was no wonder that the 4 Golden Core cultivators' expressions changed. Even they did not think that the 6th-rate country, Qing Tang Kingdom, would have a nascent soul cultivator. Furthermore, he was sent to protect Qing Tang's crown prince. It could only be said that the Qing Tang Kingdom's king valued Qing Tang very much. Scram! The old man's gloomy gaze fell on the 4 Golden Core cultivators. With a wave of his sleeve, a powerful aura surged out and sent them flying. Pooh! The 4 of them spat out blood and were sent flying. They wanted to get up, but they felt that under the powerful pressure, their bodies felt as if they were being crushed by a boulder. Even the slightest movement was painful. They want to get up, but they could not. Master, quickly leave. That a nascent soul old monster. Although the 4 of them were seriously injured, they were still concerned about Fengjiu, who was standing there motionless. Perhaps she was very strong, but with her strength, she could deal with a Golden Core cultivator. However, although a nascent soul cultivator was only 1 level higher than a Golden Core cultivator, his strength was more than 10 times stronger. If she fell into his hands, then, thinking about how that nascent soul old monster said he wanted to cripple their master, the 4 of them felt their hearts sink. Hearing the 4 people's words, the expressions of the Feng Manor's people and the Gung family's people changed greatly. A nascent soul stage old monster? That old man was actually a nascent soul old monster? It's over. This time, the Feng family is finished. If it was a peak Golden Core cultivator, it would be fine, but it just had to be a nascent soul old monster. Old Man Gung muttered. His face was filled with worry. He feared that even if he risked his old life, he would not be able to protect the person that the nascent soul old monster wanted to cripple. At this time, Nieting spoke. His deep gaze stared at the beautiful woman in a dazzling red dress. He said in a deep voice, "Woman, you should know that from the beginning you had no choice. Becoming this Lord's woman is your final destination." Chapter 429. How come I don't know that my woman's home is with you? As soon as the voice was heard, everyone's gaze turned towards the person who had just arrived. The crowd that was 100 meters away turned back and saw the person who had just arrived. They couldn't help but make a path for him. They were secretly shocked. Who was this man? His woman? Was he referring to Miss Foam? What kind of drama was this? While they were shocked, they looked at the man who was slowly walking towards them. Their hearts trembled slightly. At this moment, they felt a strong sense of oppression from the arrival of the king. None of them dared to move or even make a sound. They only knew that the man who was walking towards them with one hand behind his back and the other hand on his abdomen was wearing a dark black robe with a jade belt around his waist. His figure was more slender and tall than the average man. His entire body exuded a fierce and intimidating aura of a king. That was an innate, domineering, and majestic aura. There was no need for words to express it. Just a look and a gesture would undoubtedly show it. They couldn't see his face clearly because he was wearing a silver mask. Only his chiseled chin and sexy thin lips were exposed. Looking up, they saw a pair of deep and mysterious black eyes that were like the sea. That pair of black eyes contained an intimidating aura, sharp and cold. Just a glance was enough to make them shiver involuntarily. When this man appeared, his brilliance overshadowed everyone, not only because of his noble aura, but also because of his innate domineering aura and majestic aura. It made everyone present know that this man was not simple. No one dared to ignore or belittle his appearance. Even if there were only two men behind him, the majestic aura he exuded made the people of Qingting Kingdom alert. Even a nascent soul-old monster was on tenterhooks. He frowned slightly as he sized up the man in the black robe. He wanted to see through his cultivation and strength, but the more he looked, the more frightened he became. The other party was like a bottomless pit, unfathomable. He could only take a deep breath and calm his fluctuating emotions. He cupped his hands and bowed to the man in the black robe. He asked, "May I know who you are? What is your relationship with Miss Foam?" Even though he was an original-level powerhouse, he didn't dare to be too arrogant before such an unfathomable character. However, he never thought that such a person would appear in a lowly ninth-tier country. Furthermore, they had come for the Foam Manor's eldest young miss. His woman? Could it be that he was the source of the Foam family's eldest young misconfidence? At this moment, if Fengjiu knew what this nascent soul old monster was thinking, he would probably die from anger. She had no idea how the Yama Lord had managed to find his way here. She had always been the ghost doctor in front of him and had always been disguised as a man. Why did this person come knocking on his door? Also, what the hell was his woman? When did she become his woman? Just as she was cursing in her heart, she heard his mellow voice that was as alluring as fine wine, carrying a hint of ridicule. "Woman, what do you think our relationship is?" In an instant, everyone was stunned as they looked towards the dazzling red figure. That's right. What was the relationship between eldest young Miss Foam and the masked man? Chapter 430. Seeing that everyone's eyes were on her and staring at her with curiosity, she couldn't help but feel her scalp go numb. She could ignore other people's gazes, but what was wrong with this Yama Lord? Those deep eyes were staring straight at her, and he even asked such a question. How did he expect her to answer? Moreover, the relationship between them wasn't as ambiguous as he made it out to be. Moreover, she was dressed as a woman. If she refused to admit it, what could he do about it? Thus, she smiled and blinked her mesmerizing eyes at him. "I'm sorry, but do we know each other?" As soon as she said this, she clearly felt the atmosphere become colder. Seeing that pair of deep black eyes staring at her, she couldn't help but feel a little guilty. However, In the next moment, she calmed herself down and thought to herself, I really don't have anything to do with him, so why should I feel guilty? Thus, she continued to smile and look back at him. She thought to herself, even if I lose, I can't lose face. No matter what, I can't be looked down upon. Yama Lord stared at her and saw the smile on that beautiful face. He looked straight into her smiling eyes and saw the flash of guilt in her eyes. He snorted coldly in his heart and felt a little displeased. Was this woman trying to distance herself from him? He came all the way here, so how could she deny it? Thinking about how he didn't receive her surprised and excited expression after rushing all the way here, but instead, she pretended not to know him and hurriedly denied their relationship, he felt very displeased. He glanced at her and said coldly, You don't know me? Why didn't you say you didn't know me when you peeked at this lord's house in the middle of the night? Why didn't you say you didn't know me when you hugged this lord's neck and refused to let go? Spending the night with this lord. Hey, Yama Lord, so it's you. Seeing that he still wanted to talk about those things, Feng Nine hurriedly interrupted him, and her attitude instantly changed. She smiled and squinted her eyes to greet him as if they were familiar with each other, but in her heart, she was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Things were obviously not like what he said, but when he said it, it sounded different. People who didn't know would think that she was a pervert. Even though she was quite lecherous, it was better not to say anything that would damage her image as the Phoenix Master. At this moment, Hui Lang and Ing Yi were looking at their master with adoration. It turned out that their master was so different when he acted like a hooligan. With just a few words, the ghost doctor had no choice but to admit their relationship. He was really amazing. At this time, the surrounding people all stared at her with strange expressions. They all had looks of disbelief, as if they could not imagine the scene of the elegant and beautiful eldest young miss of the Feng Manor climbing the roof in the middle of the night to peep. Also, why was she hugging the black-robed man's neck and not letting go? Was this for real? This man's entire body was filled with a dangerous aura. No matter how she looked at him, he was not easy to get along with. How could she dare to hug his neck and not let go? Could it be that they were really familiar with each other? However, at this moment, they were even more curious about the second half of the black-robed man's unfinished sentence. What did they share in the night? Share a drink? Shared a bath? Thinking of the last two words, everyone's expressions were as brilliant as the color of their tongues. Each and every one of them stared at the Feng family's eldest young miss with bright eyes, as if they had discovered a secret. Chapter 431. Everyone looked at the man in the black robe again. It had to be said that this man was really outstanding. Whether it was his physique or his face that only revealed his thin lips and chin, he gave off an extraordinary feeling. What's more, the domineering aura of a king on the man's body was too intimidating. Even the crown prince of the Qingting kingdom, Niet Tung, could not be compared to that kind of aura. Even if they did not know this person's identity, some knowledgeable people knew that this person's identity was definitely not ordinary. At this time, the nascent soul old monster's expression was not too good as he looked at the Feng family's eldest young lady who was walking towards the man in the black robe with a smile. If he did not hear wrongly, did she just call the man in the black robe Yama Lord? As far as he knew, the only person who could be called Yama Lord was the mysterious master of the Yama Palace. Could it be this person? Nieting's face was also dark at this time, especially when he saw Fengjiu walking towards the man in the black robe with a smile like a flower. There was a trace of flattery and a trace of guilt on her face, causing him to clench his hands tightly under his sleeves. As the crown prince of the Qingting kingdom, he had naturally heard of the power of the Yama Palace and the man who was respectfully called Yama Lord. However, could it be the person in front of him? That man was rumored to be like a god and was very mysterious. How could he appear in this small ninth-tier country? And he even knew that woman, Feng Qingda? Could it be that this Yama Lord was not the Yama Lord he was thinking of? On the other side, the Yama Lord saw her walking towards him with a smile. The corners of his lips finally revealed a faint smile, and a touch of gentleness and affection flashed across his deep black eyes. At this moment, he really wanted to touch her head, hug her tightly in his arms, and fiercely kiss those tender and seductive red lips. Let's see if she dared to run away without saying a word next time. However, in front of so many people, he held back. When the people of the Qingting kingdom were dealt with, he would teach this woman a lesson. Otherwise, she would dare to pretend not to know him. Yama Lord, why did you come all the way here? Could it be that you came here to do business? She came in front of him with a smile and forced herself to smile. In fact, she wanted to ask, how did you know that my house was here? How did you know that I was a woman? Don't you have a lot of things to do? Why did you come to this small ninth-tier country? His sudden appearance in front of people could really scare them to death. Sir, hearing her say old man and old man, he raised his eyebrows slightly and coldly snorted, Am I very old? I'm just being respectful. She smiled embarrassedly. Why couldn't she be tough in front of him? That's all you've got. Do you think that I'm hugging your thigh for nothing? He scolded her in a low voice, but he couldn't bear to scold her too much. His words were not harsh, but instead there was a sense of helplessness. Feng Jiu was stunned and looked at him in a daze. He wanted her to use his name and borrow his power to show off. Did she hear wrongly? How come she didn't know when she had hugged such a thick thigh and found such a big backer? Chapter 432. When the Phoenix Guard saw their master complain to the man called Yama Lord with a wronged expression, the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch, and they all lowered their heads. Perhaps it was because they had seen their master's cold and ruthless methods, but they couldn't get used to her innocent and wronged appearance. Although her clear eyes were clear and innocent, and no matter how they looked at it, they didn't really think that their master was pure and harmless. When Yama Lord heard her complaint, his entire body emitted a murderous aura. His deep eyes became cold, and a cold, murderous aura flashed through his eyes. He raised his eyes to look at the nascent soul eccentric, and his voice was cold and sinister. Oh, he wants to cripple you? Feng Jiu nodded heavily and continued to say in a wronged manner. He relies on his nascent soul, eccentric status to bully people. And that crown Prince Qing Tung, I don't know where this thing came from, but he mysteriously wants to take me in as a secondary princess. What secondary princess? To put it bluntly, it's just a concubine. I am the dignified Feng Manor's eldest young miss. Could it be that I would fancy the position of a concubine? I clearly said that I won't marry, but they rely on their numbers and want to steal me. They even said that they want to cripple me and lock me up. Hearing this, the Yama Lord didn't say anything for the time being. Even Hui Lang and Ing Yi, who were standing behind the Yama Lord, stared strangely at the nascent soul eccentric and crowned Prince Qing Tung. They didn't even ask who the Feng family's eldest young miss was. What was her status? They wanted to take her in as a secondary princess? Take the ghost doctor as a secondary princess? Only they could do such a strange thing. Thinking of how noble his master's status was, the ghost doctor didn't even look at him. Cough, cough. It was that she wasn't moved. Just a trifling sixth-tier small country dared to steal someone from his master? And they wanted to steal? They were really indulging in fantasy. However, their expressions were strange as they looked at the Qing Tong guards on the ground who were in so much pain that they couldn't even cry out in pain. They felt that this scene wasn't quite like what the ghost doctor had said about them bullying her just because they had more people. No matter how they looked at it, it was the ghost doctor who was bullying people. Furthermore, she had taken care of most of the Qing Tong kingdom's people without losing a single soldier. It was likely that only the nascent soul eccentric and crowned Prince Qing Tong kingdoms were unharmed. When the people around her heard her words, they all had different expressions on their faces as their eyes flashed. The Yama Lord and the two men behind him had just arrived and didn't know. They had seen everything from beginning to end. Although it seemed that the Qing Tang Kingdom's people had the upper hand the entire time, when they saw the people lying on the ground, they knew that not a single person from the Feng Manor had been harmed. On the contrary, the guards and generals sent by the country's ruler had all been killed by the hands of the seemingly harmless eldest young Miss Feng. Also, ever since eldest young Miss Feng had come out of the Feng Manor, even if she knew that the old man was a nascent soul eccentric, they did not see the slightest bit of fear or panic on her face. On the contrary, when they saw the masked man in black robes appear, they thought for a moment that she wanted to hide back in the Feng Manor. At first, they were a bit surprised, but when they thought of what the man in black robes had said, they understood. Thinking about it, eldest young Miss Feng had owed a debt of love outside, and this man had chased her all the way to the Feng Manor. However, why did eldest young Miss Feng complain to him? Could it be that the man in black robes would go against a nascent soul eccentric for her? Chapter 433. After hearing eldest Miss Feng's words, the black-robed man, who was exuding a cold, murderous aura, curled his lips and revealed a faint smile. When his deep eyes moved away from eldest Miss Feng, the coldness and murderous aura in his black eyes made everyone's hearts tremble. Bully you? No problem. I'll help you vent your anger. The man, whose entire body was filled with murderous intent, used a pampering tone to say these words. In the next moment, his entire body swept out like a ghost. His speed was so fast that it actually caused a fierce airflow around him. The nascent soul cultivator was already on guard. He felt a great threat from this person, especially when the person stared at him. The cold, murderous intent in his eyes made him fearful. Even though this person didn't look very old, in the cultivation world, the higher one's cultivation level, the more they could maintain their appearance at their peak. He didn't dare to be careless. He was afraid that this person was an old monster who had cultivated for hundreds of years. Seeing the cold aura coming towards him, the nascent soul cultivator instinctively wanted to distance himself from this person. However, this person's speed was too fast. In the blink of an eye, this person was right in front of him. A powerful pressure enveloped him like Mount Tai, instantly making him unable to move. His eyes widened in shock as he stared at the black-robed man in front of him in shock. Just as he was about to cry out and beg for mercy, he saw his chin being crushed with a crack. Intense pain assaulted him, and before he could react, he felt all the bones in his body being crushed. For a moment, the sound of his bones breaking rang out. With his chin broken, he could only vaguely let out a shrill cry of pain. The pain of having his bones broken spread throughout his mind and body. Every pinch made him suffer the torment of pain. Every bone that was broken made him feel the pain of having his bones broken. This man, he clearly had the ability to kill him in an instant, but he insisted on torturing him and letting him experience all kinds of pain before dying. At this moment, he felt an aura of death he had never felt before. The powerful aura from the black-robed man enveloped him and turned into a terrifying aura of death. At this moment, he knew very well that if he didn't run, he would die here. Hundreds of years of cultivation would turn to ashes with his death. He would disappear from this world. Run, run. He had to run for his life. Escape at all costs. The fear and shock in his heart made him summon his nascent soul without thinking. The nascent soul was a spiritual body cultivated by a nascent soul cultivator. It was a protective talisman that could save one's life at a critical moment. It was the essence of a nascent soul cultivator. Even if this body was gone, as long as the nascent soul was still there, he could transform into a human again. However, using a nascent soul was a dead end. This was because the nascent soul had no offensive power and was so weak that it could be killed by anyone. Unless it was absolutely necessary, a nascent soul cultivator would not use his nascent soul to save his life. The surrounding crowd was shocked by this scene. They only saw the nascent soul cultivator being crippled by the black-robed man without being able to resist at all. The sound of bones shattering caused all the hair on their bodies to stand on end. They only felt that it was too terrifying. There was clearly no intense battle, and there was clearly no scene of blood splattering everywhere. However, this scene deeply shocked everyone's hearts. Chapter 434. The thing seemed to be frightened by something and flew out in a panic. When the thing stretched out and turned around, everyone was shocked. This was because it was a face that was somewhat similar to that of a nascent soul cultivator. However, the difference was that the nascent soul cultivator's face was covered in wrinkles, making him look old. When he stretched out his hand, he looked like a newborn. He was a miniature version of the nascent soul cultivator, but his body was slightly larger than a fist. He was completely naked and protected by spiritual energy. At this moment, he was using his hands and feet to try and escape. "That's a nascent soul," someone exclaimed. This was the first time they had seen such a thing. After all, even in a small rank 9 country, golden core cultivators were rare, let alone nascent soul cultivators. They had heard of nascent soul cultivators forming a nascent soul in their dantian, but they didn't expect to see it one day. At the same time that the nascent soul flew out, the nascent soul cultivator's body also stopped breathing and fell to the ground. This scene caused Nietang's face to turn pale. He stared at the black-robed man, but he couldn't move. The difference in strength was too great. In front of the black-robed man, he didn't even have a chance to attack. In fact, the black-robed man only needed to release his pressure to suppress him. If he was like this, there was no need to talk about the others. When the golden core cultivators saw this scene, they all retreated in shock. However, they didn't run away because Nietang was still there. Otherwise, they would have already run for their lives. The Infernal Lord glanced at the nascent soul that was fleeing in panic. With a flick of his sleeve, he let out a cold harumph. Just as he was about to attack and kill the nascent soul, a snow-white figure suddenly let out a roar and pounced forward. Amidst the nascent soul's horrified screams, the snow-white figure bit it and swallowed it. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. They thought that the nascent soul would escape or be killed by the black-robed man, but who would have thought that it would be swallowed by a snow-white ball-like pet? Perhaps it was because this scene was too inconceivable, but everyone's eyes widened and they were unable to regain their senses for a long time. Then they saw the little pet that had swallowed the nascent soul in midair and landed steadily on the ground. It burped and trembled all over before growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles. The originally ball-like pet had grown into a ferocious beast that was even larger than a lion within a few breaths. The snow-white fur on its body was long and drooped down to its side. However, it was a little loose, making its entire body appear even larger. The shining beast tattoo on its forehead was extremely eye-catching. Roar. The cloud-swallowing beast stretched and roared, as if it had eaten its fill. It stuck out its tongue and licked the corner of its mouth. It even raised a paw and elegantly wiped the corner of its mouth. Its pair of ferocious eyes glanced at the people around it. When it saw the Yama Lord, there was a hint of fear and avoidance. It let out a low roar, swung its tail, raised its head, and slowly walked back to the Fengjiu's side. It lay on the ground lazily. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.